Yeah, as soon as we're ready to really start the meeting, so there's not a lot of connect.
We're gonna get down there reading the plan. Okay, welcome to the January Conservation Commission meeting in Bellingham Municipal Center. We have one member who is participating, Pamela Francis, online Zoom, so our votes as per open meeting regulations require that we have anyone participating by Zoom requires all votes be a roll call vote. So we'll be going that way tonight. The first item on the agenda for tonight is the continued hearing for an RDA for Blackstone Street, Quick Stream, jurisdictional determinations of land surrounding a portion of Quick Stream. The applicant is Louis Petrosi, representatives,
Top one corner of the agenda.
Sorry,
okay, nothing in the comment.
Start with NCC.
Oh, okay,
They have a
sorry.
hard stop.
sorry, that was a other business item that we had to just start early on.
Okay, so I apologize. I received just notification that the agenda copy that I was going off didn't have a correction in the order. We do need to jump out of order, so we will be returning back to, sorry, Lou, you're on for twice though, so you get twice the benefit of being up here. But we do need to take someone else out of work because they have a time sensitive crunch.
I
We do need to
understand.
hear.
Oh, I understand the time sensitive.
So that's my bad on that. I'm not seeing that on there.
Did you get the only?
I was the only one that didn't have anything wrong.
Really?
All right, so that's fine. Yeah, everything else is the same, right?
He brought his own meeting.
Oh, yeah, I did talk to. Okay, so we will be doing the, jumping down to,
It's just the NECC back.
yeah, so it's under other things. I want to make sure we're on the agenda on that. So we're going to ask, for
Brian Madden's on. Zoom.
Brian Madden on Zoom to give us an update on the notice of violation for NECC 180 Payne Street, which he has been participating along with Hannah on trying to get a grip on what was going on there. So Brian, can you give us an update on what the plan is going forward since you've been dealing with the violators?
Yes, thank you very much. Can everyone hear me okay?
Sounds good on this end.
All right, excellent. Good to see everyone. So before Christmas, we were able to survey locate the extent of the clearing limits. And what we also located was the cut stumps within the jurisdictional buffer zone areas. Prior to the next meeting, we'll be able to submit a restoration plan showing replacement trees and shrubs along with the monitoring plan for the full restoration area. The majority of the cutting, again, this took place adjacent to a tee box on the 8th hole, and there was some intrusion into the buffer zone to two contiguous but kind of separate wetland areas. Cumulatively, the cut area was about 9,000 square feet, majority of which was outside the 50-foot buffer zone. There was a small intrusion into the 25-foot or within the 50-foot, about 300 square feet or so. There was also some minimal cutting of some shrubs along a older cart path through the woods. So the restoration plan is to account for all that activity and bring the site back into compliance. And really, just wanted to give you a quick update and see if there was anything you'd like us to integrate into that restoration plan, or anything to address in particular.
We did get some pictures on the board.
No, so that they're in the process of creating a restoration plan right now, so.
Brian, obviously, we're not going to be planting trees to restore the area until spring, and so you'll be including that as a timetable.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Commission members have anything that they observed from the portal pictures or they have a question of based on what Mr. Madden has just described?
Looked like there were some fairly large trees. Were they within the buffer zone area described, or were they outside?
There were a total of 4 larger trees that were 12 inches or more DBH. There was a number of saplings and smaller shrubs that were cut that will regenerate. There was no grubbing or rototilling or removal of root systems there, but the big trees that were cut, there were a total of 4 within the 50 to 100 foot buffer zone.
And were they hardwood? Were they oak or maple or?
Yeah, they were hardwoods, primarily oaks.
We get a story for why this happened? Brian, what's the background on why this was done?
Yeah, so in just normal golf course maintenance, the trees were shading some of the tee boxes. So, unbeknownst to the grounds crew, that some of this work did extend into the buffer zone. And, it was kind of typical maintenance you'd see on a golf course to open up sunlight. So you're getting more sunlight to the tee boxes. But they did encroach within the buffer zone accidentally.
So is your restoration plan gonna propose 1-for-1, at least replacement of what was there? And I mean, then we're gonna have the same problem 10, 15 years from now.
Yeah, we'll be coordinating the restoration efforts. So it's, it may not be replacing the tree in the exact location, but certainly within an appropriate area in the buffer zone. That's not going to run into conflict with future golf course maintenance. So we'll be coordinating with the golf course to understand exactly what future concerns and maintenance needs would be, to tailor the restoration plan to kind of balance those 2 features.
Ryan, when will we see this restoration plan?
We'll have a plan submitted prior to the next meeting.
We may want a permanent barrier with badges as well.
Some sort of fence.
Yep, fencing and badging.
Can we have a site visit once we've seen the restoration plan so we can match it up?
I think it's a good idea.
Yep.
Everything that's, is everything delineated, Brian, there? If we were gonna do a sidewalk after we receive your, restoration plan, so we'd see where the wetlands line, for example, 50 foot, 25 foot, whatever, has anything been marked, flagged in those areas?
Yeah, we could mark out the limits of the buffer zone, and yeah, certainly would be available for an on-site if the commission would like to meet out there.
Yeah.
Brian, I think it'll be important to see where the large trees are in relationship to the wetland lines, please.
I think anywhere of the 9,000 square feet that you described as the overall affected areas that were cut or impacted is the area that we would want to focus on, wetlands, lines and so forth, not the whole property, obviously, but just those areas that were in violation or adjacent to violation areas. So, yeah,
Exactly.
you can arrange that. That'd be good.
Yeah, and we have some pretty good data, obviously, with the wetland flagging that took place beforehand that know exactly what this area looked like previously and can provide a little bit more detail on that front and tailor the restoration plan accordingly.
Given the fact that we don't know exactly how this overall NECC property is going to be divvied up into development versus remaining as golf course or some modified golf course location, who would be owning it, who would be maintaining it, and so forth. We'll just have to keep posted on that. Obviously, your company is working with the development side of things, but it's also interacting here with this portion. So we'll be looking for updates on that part of it, just so that we know who we're dealing with if we're splitting the property into 2 different types of functions. That areas are badged and marked for maintenance, as well as the usual things that we would do in a development that are adjacent to wetlands, like, do not dump just beyond backs of people's properties that are creating lawns and so forth, if they're getting into the no disturb areas. But we'll just keep we'll keep posted with you on that and see where it goes from there, I guess. Any other questions from the commission on this?
Brian, does NECC have a written like veg management plan or policy that they use? And if they don't, I'd suggest they do.
Yeah, not to my knowledge. I mean, the course dates back to the early 1920s, I think. So there's obviously been some historic maintenance activity taking place out here, but I'm not aware if there's a cumulative comprehensive veg management plan for the property.
Some sort that describes, I mean, basic golf course is a lot of vegetation and land, so if they have an O and M plan in place, Brian, if you could ask the people that you're interacting with about this as you come forward with the restoration plan, we may want to, if we incorporate that as at least seeing the O and M plan, and if they have one for the property in general, may not be vegetation per se, but
Is that Brian, or should we have the client in and speak to them directly?
well,
I
Ryan,
mean, I asked specifically, Brian, because you referenced the standard clearing for a tee box. So if there's a standard clearing for a tee box, I'm assuming they have a standard to follow.
right, and since.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it just got to a period of where there was so much shading taking place that there was a need to open it up. But we can certainly provide a little bit more information on that front, and certainly there's a significant education component to this learning lesson, so to speak. So.
Definitely whoever is going forward maintaining that needs to know, not accidentally mistake where they can and can't cut, and have their sense of that. If fences and boundary markers need to be put in place, that may be part of it, but education, as you said, of the current and future property owner, and disseminating that to the staff, the fields, grounds crew.
Or to me, raises the question is how much cutting was missed over the years?
Yeah, well. It's 1923, probably
More than you want to know.
We're dealing with what we've observed in a range of time that we can certainly deal with right now, but going forward, we'll definitely. We need to go and play some golf. Okay, anything else for Brian?
So when they come back, you want them to be on as other business, or should we schedule them as an agenda item?
agenda item.
Agenda item?
Yeah.
I think given the scope of it now that we've fully
Yeah.
more and fully understand, you have to put it on, it's not gonna be an NOI or an RDA per se, but at least as a more than just informational, other business.
Okay,
They'll need to submit an NOI for the restoration. Right?
and if they're planning to keep anything?
They're in buffer zone, yeah.
Yeah.
They keep it
Are you
just-
planning on doing this as an NOI, Brian? The restoration plan?
Maybe what I'm thinking right now is we submit the restoration plan, and if you all feel that it's necessary to file a notice, because I think ultimately there may be a need to retain some of that cutting area, which probably may be better served memorialized in a notice and an order. But maybe to start with as a talking point, and again, we got a little bit of time until we're able to start planting in the spring here, that we submit the restoration plan and then have that conversation.
And that's the only way we can permit you to keep that space cleared. We can't permit that over a notice of violation.
Right, that would make sense.
Understood.
And you're doing this on behalf of the current golf course administration or whatever?
Yes,
Okay.
the current owner, yes, yeah.
Yes, separate, just to be clear, separate from the plan that you were submitting under LEC's consulting for the agenda item, for example, the ANRAD.
Yeah, the ANRAD has a different applicant.
Right, okay, just so we're clear on the record, okay. All right, I think that if the commission is willing to do that, we can put them on the agenda for the next meeting. If Brian's gonna have that information ahead of time, to review it, we can then require that they submit an NOI if that seems advisable, and we can move forward. We have plenty of time, as Brian said.
Would we be able to push it to the first February meeting? So we have, if they're submitting an NOI, so we have time for them to submit it and then get it out for public advertising and everything?
Would we have time if we did it on the 22nd meeting, because Brian seems to indicate he wanted to have us look at the restoration plan and then decide if we're doing an NOI. He wasn't planning on doing an NOI. If I heard you correctly, Brian, you were planning on submitting an NOI and the restoration plan. You wanted to have us look at the restoration plan in 2 weeks and then decide whether we want to acquire an NOI. Is that what your plan and hope was?
Yeah, that would be my request at this
So
point. Yeah.
hoping into February, you're acquiring an NOI.
I don't think we have the option.
I would be shocked if we didn't do an NOI, because they're going to have to do work in buffer zone.
Well, they're planning on keeping the area they've already
Right.
altered.
Right, and doing more work for the restoration, so you have to have.
Does the commission want to still ask Brian to provide that restoration plan in the next couple of weeks? If you could do that as part of preliminary information that we would be receiving as part of the application process, or do you want to just get it all with the NOI and have it pushed back to February?
I think it'd be cleaner if it was all with the NOI.
I'm just asking.
I wouldn't be against seeing it, but yeah.
Well, the applicant can submit that way ahead of time. They don't have to.
Yeah,
wait
no, I
till-
mean,
They can submit it also in pieces and we put it in the portal and you have it available when you want to look at it when the NOI comes in. All right, Brian, it sounds like the commission's view on this already is that we were gonna want to do an NOI. And that this scope of this and the process will probably go a little bit more smoothly if you all anticipate that you are gonna need to submit an NOI, and if you wish to. What's the date, Kevin?
February 12th.
You want, we'd have more than happy to push it back to the 12th of February. And would that give you time to do an NOI / restoration plan and whatever other information you need to provide?
Yeah. If we do need to file that notice,
You should do a
and that,
sidewalk between now and then.
yeah,
Knowing that there's gonna be.
then yeah, that February meeting would be appropriate.
The weather and schedules. permit.
So just to confirm my understanding, because of the shading, there will be an interest to leave what was opened up open.
In some areas, I think. So.
So there's a 2-to-1 replication aspect in play here. Question.
I think replications we generally require with bylaws 2-to-1 replication where it's feasible and possible, and the heavily wooded site, it wouldn't be necessary, but Brian, I think was indicating where restoration does take place. It would be not necessarily exactly next to a tree that was cut because it may not make sense, but in areas that are as close as adjacent. But then he did mention that there are some areas that they wouldn't want to put another tree up and have it shade.
they're looking to keep the benefit of, some of the benefit of the violation.
Until we see the scope and the restoration plan, I think we kind of need to make a call.
So
on it.
I agree with Neil and James. This is. We're crossing into a notice of
Oh,
intent.
yeah, no, it's an NOI.
And Brian thinks that he can handle that by the 12th of February, so.
Well,
Okay, I think, Brian, that would be our desire to go forward, having you be instructed to provide an NOI for this, as well as replication information and everything else that you have. And we will try to arrange a site visit, depending on weather schedules and, other things, we'll probably do that offline. We'll pick a time and day right now because the commission want to see. Do you want to wait until after you receive the NOI information and have a set of plans and be looking at stuff for restoration? Yeah, okay. So we probably wouldn't be doing that before we receive the restoration information at the very least, and as well as the NOI probably. So we'll probably be looking for a site walk in February, just if you have any additional flagging or anything else you want to do, you don't have to rush to do it immediately.
Great.
Okay, anything else from the commission?
If you have the time, Brian, too, while you're flagging, if you can stake out where your proposed plantings are. And we can cross-reference the plan out there, that would be helpful.
Yep, I can do that.
And do we want to know what areas they might be interested in keeping open? That have been
I think
planned?
we'll see that.
Well, that'll be on the plan too.
That should be
That'll be
okay.
on the plan.
All right, yeah, so any areas that they plan on retaining and not replanting because of the shading issues and so forth that you mentioned earlier, Brian, we hope that's indicated on the plan clearly enough so we can ID, the scope as well as the particular areas. Okay. If there's nothing else for Brian, we'll move along. All right, thank you, Brian, for your time. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks for the feedback. Appreciate the time at the start of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, and so we'll put this on the agenda for an NOI as, I'll take a motion to put this on the agenda, for an NOI and continue from other business to a continued hearing, well, a new hearing for an NOI, at 180 Main Street, at 7 PM on February 12th.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Jamie. And this does need to be a roll call vote. Pamela,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Steve? Neil? Aye. Diane?
Aye.
James? Aye, unanimous vote. Okay, thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Take care. All right, now, sorry, 8 minutes late, you're welcome to come up. Revisiting here, I didn't finish reading my best, do it again. The records and RDA continued hearing for Blackstone Street, Quick Stream, additional determination of land surrounding a portion of Quick Stream. Bruce Petrosi is the applicant from Wall Development and Goddard Consulting. We have a key? No. Oh, sorry.
Good evening, Lou Petrosi from Wall Street Development Corp., the applicant. I have with Brian Racine from Goddard Consulting tonight. As we previously talked about, this is a property that's located off of the Blackstone Street, the unconstructed portion of Blackstone Street. And it runs cross country to North Street, so to speak. There is a map stream on the USGS map that cuts through the property. Back in 2013 or 2014, the commission issued a ORAD, and that the stream was not perennial, that it was intermittent. We're simply here tonight to document the fact that we observed once again that the stream channel was dry during the non-drought season. And so to reaffirm the previous determination that it is intermittent.
Lou, I do believe I asked one of the commission members who maybe has more comment on it, but I believe we did take a look and it was the USGS shown at one point in time as perennial.
Right.
And I don't think that was designated, changed otherwise. You're saying, you just said it was marked as intermittent, I believe.
Well, no, the commission agreed with a previous ANRAD that it was, in other words, attached to the document that the RDA, you'll see it attached to that as an ORAD that was issued by the Bellingham Conservation Commission in 2013 or 2014, which they did agree that the observations that were made at that time verified that the stream was intermittent.
I'm not disagreeing with the USGS.
Well, just by the regulations have provisions in there to declare it, to rebut the provisions of the USGS map, and that one of those is the observing that the stream is non-flowing for 4 days during a calendar year in a non-drought season. So that was done back in 2013, and then we've done it again this time to reaffirm those findings.
Does it say how many days you have to observe it in the regulations?
4 days. Yes,
Consecutive?
they don't have to be consecutive though. Am I correct?
Yeah, they don't have to be consecutive, but we did it basically consecutive. We did September 18th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd.
I did get some feedback from DEP, when I spoke to them just earlier this week. And their concern was regarding the location that the stream stats was taken from. It kind of looks like it was, the watershed was determined from that ponded area and above, rather than including like where Station 1 was. So are you only determining that upper portion of the stream to be intermittent?
Well, I'll just answer for Brian for right now. I don't know if you folks have been out there, but you know, Blackstone Street cuts across. And there's no connection between the ponding area on the right and the stream on the left. In order for the water to get to the other side and have the stream flowing would be when in significant springtime flows that it overtops the roadway and flows to the other side.
I've been through that area for many years ago for another development project that was in the works, so we walked that area.
One in 2013.
Yeah, and I can't remember for sure, but what's the distance between the pond and the end of the stream where it terminates near where the Blackstone Street paper
I
is?
think it's 20 feet. maybe.
Okay, so it's not possible, it's seepage that's feeding the pond.
No, it's definitely, well, the pond is on the upside. What Canada is saying, the pond is on the upside. and the stream is on.
Oh, the other way around, sorry.
Right.
So there's no.
So in order for the water to get from this side to the other side, it has to top over the road. It's not a seepage thing. Now, when we, come in with our plans to develop and construct Blackstone Street, there may be some discussion about making it a connection of some sort. But at this point, it's not connected.
I think they were talking about the area in the middle between Station 3 and Station 1. This middle ponded area, is that what you're
Where is it?
referring?
You guys have the photograph?
Yep, I put it up.
Okay.
Yeah, so between Station 3 and Station 1.
Oh,
Seems
I
like the quick streams was taken from about here.
don't know.
Yeah, so that area there is just it's a flooded, deep water emergent marsh is it's labeled as on Mass DEP wetlands and the National Wetland Inventory. So it was taken above that. Yeah, I think that one shows it, yeah, because that's the stream stats that we did. Slightly above that, however, in any case, that's why we did, the multiple stream stations, way at the top, kind of in the middle, that second one and one way down at the bottom to document throughout the property that the stream is the same in all locations. And so, as you can see from the photos and documentation, that the stream was dry for those 4 days.
But if that's a ponding area, that would be not considered river fund anyway. And so the stream would stop at the inlet and start at the outlet again, so the pond is not part of the river.
It was part of the watershed.
Yeah, I think.
Fourth
that's
Street.
Yeah, I think, we're talking about the watershed, but I mean, regardless of the size of the watershed, if it's dry, it doesn't, the regulations doesn't matter. If it's dry in a non-drought season, it's not perennial. That's not our rule, that's a rule that's in the regulations, so. But again, I hate to go back to 10 years ago, but 10 years ago, that's, the finding was the same. That it was intermittent and not same facts, same stream channel, same watershed, nothing changed. in the
Yeah, I'm
last
not
15
sure what the
years.
drought stats was in 2013. I don't remember, about 10 years ago, but obviously climate change has affected things big time, and the timing that you guys doing this happened to precede what I haven't seen yet. I did see the information in the portal for the August, September, October state and Massachusetts drought declarations, and it was expanding somewhat, and I read the reports of their meetings and how they were discussing, when should we bump it up to level 1, level 2? And I think that they were behind the curve on that because everybody else in the state seemed to agree that there was a serious drought on it, including every weather channel you looked at it for months. But I'd be interested to see, do you know what they posted the November or December?
No.
See what the map is expanded to include this area?
Yeah, so this one here, I don't know if you've seen this one, so this one is, so they actually just issued a new one yesterday, or it came out today.
Right.
But so this is the one, this was, the declaration date was November 7th, and it was effective as of October 1st. And this is the first one where Bellingham was included in
Is
the
that
drought. And this is
One or two?
a level 2 significant drought.
Yeah.
So so the previous one, Bellingham was not in drought, so it jumped up to a level 2. And then it's actually down, I think, 1 level. I was looking at it today. All these areas are down 1 level, for the drought status. But
I know Blackstone was mentioned in this particular area concerning the minutes, back even in August, September as one of the river areas, but they also commented that major rivers were the areas that would be most likely to have the drought status not be changed as quickly and be potentially likely to be an issue coming up with, whether it's the people in the area or whether it's something like this reviewing for a project. And in fact, they did mention something about, and I don't think this was
I
And
also had a thought I wanted to interject when I was going over those task force. So on the September 9th drought task force and the October 8th, when you read through it, they do note that the river and stream flows have been below normal, especially in Norfolk County in the eastern part of the state. So even though they didn't declare a drought in September, they were already noticing that stream flow and river flow was lower specifically here. So I think that might be worth looking at.
right, in the wetlands section on the October 8th minutes, I highlighted two areas, one of which was just what you said, Pamela, that Mr. McGuire commented the main stems of the Sudbury and Blackstone rivers, which is part of, not right flowing through here, obviously, but near us, are perennial with riverfront area regardless of flow due to their status as major rivers. So the concerns over designations getting overturned from perennial to intermittent are for non-major rivers. And then they commented in paragraph before that, he was limited on what he can present about the wetlands because of a public records request from a developer who wants information on streams with no flow. He described the concerns over requests to overturn designations based on observations of no flow. This was somebody who was on this drought task management force and an October meeting. So, yeah, they are concerned about, and yet had not bumped the designation statewide up. They seem very cautious in their minutes to do that from one drought level to
They're
another.
concerned, but they don't do anything.
Well, then they jump from 0 in Bellingham to
two.
2,
Right.
and then they comment that they might have to do that in one of their minutes too.
But
For other parts of
keeping
the
in
state.
mind that this is the way they've operated for a lot of years. And if you go back, even in the last 2 years, if you look at the drought, there hasn't been a drought declared in Massachusetts at all for the entire state since July of 2022. So for the last 2 years, at least, there hasn't been a drought. And unfortunately, I wasn't paying attention, but this has been dry, and so isn't Lake and Prospect Street stream also dry. So again, we're here, because we already have an ANRAD or an ORAD saying it was intermittent. And we're just here simply to reaffirm that with the information that we have under the rules that have been provided. We're not making the rules and we're not arguing the rules, we're just applying the rules. And so, I don't know how you.
I'm just making an observation that,
Sure.
given the timing, you happen to time it in your favor early on to get that. If you tried to do this now, you wouldn't probably succeed because the drought
Well,
says too, you wouldn't be able to.
But that's the whole point of giving us a 12-month period to do 4 observations. Now, we could have done this in July, and it probably would have been dry too. So, and we were definitely in a non-drought situation in July or August even. So we're not, we don't pick and choose. It was my call to say, hey, let's go out there, because I have 3 or 4 other projects that have rural implications, not 2 in Bellingham and 2 in other towns. So my responsibility is to look at what is impacting the developments that we're proposing, and this is one of them. So we could.
And Hannah, would you, I know you've done this for myself, but for the rest of the commission members, just in case there's any that have. So we would be, if confirming these 2 RDAs coming up, the current one we're on and the next one.
Yes.
The status goes from perennial to intermittent. Riverfront protection is provided under perennial status, but is not under intermittent.
Correct.
Can you remember whether there was anything else that changes as far as protection levels? Because intermittent is not nothing. It's not like you can just do whatever you want to because it's intermittent, but the level of protection is reduced to.
And it's only, it turns into essentially just another resource area.
It's a bylaw issue. It's 100, we're still subject to the Wetland Protection Act and the 100-foot buffer zone requirement and everything else that's in there. But it's just not a 200-foot.
I'm just making put on the record, make sure
Oh, yeah.
the commission knows the rules.
There won't be riverfront area with that being counted as a resource. It just turns into buffer zone.
The town bylaw protects all streams, the same regardless. We don't mention the word intermittent or perennial.
Well, you have the riverfront provision in your.
Right, in the bylaw.
Regulations,
Yeah.
so there's a distinction between a riverfront and an intermittent buffer zone.
Our definition of river is any natural flowing body of water that empties into any ocean, lake, pond, reservoir, stream, or other river. And you're intermittent in there?
But you don't have a riverfront area, do you?
Area of land between a river, stream, brook, or creek's mean annual high water line or top of bank, whichever is further landward, and a parallel line measured 200 feet horizontally landward of the mean annual high water line. The 200-foot riverfront area shall apply to perennially flowing rivers, streams, brooks, or creeks.
Correct, and we're arguing that it's not perennial.
And I disagree with that.
Okay, well, we don't make the regulations, you can interpret however you want to interpret it, but that's not how the regulations.
I know, but that's used. Not intermittent,
That we have,
you know,
definition of-
but we still do, as you said, have.
Were you just
stream
quoting the
of-
state or the town bylaw?
The earlier comment you made about stream, defining stream in the town as water that flows, so and that has. You mentioned that because, just to define it, or because there's promotional protection, okay.
I think the question on the table, Mike, is Mr. Petrosi is of the opinion he has documentation stating it's not perennial. And we're gonna go by a state document that says it is. So where do we go?
What document are you referring to?
The map that Mike mentioned earlier.
USGS map?
Yes.
Well, it references it.
Well,
Okay,
so where do we go from here?
Well,
You have two differences of opinion. How do we prove what stands?
I'm not sure how much validity our 2013 confirmation of a status of intermittent at that time was relevant, is how relevant that is to today's request for an RDA for that. Lewis stating that he wants to basically just reconfirm that we still are being consistent with that. 2013 is a long time ago, and I'm not sure if a confirmation of intermittent versus perennial without saying that GIS, I have no proof that the GIS was being disputed at that time by us. We made it just an option based on the observations that were being made of the field at the time, which is what we were saying, it was dry then. We said, yeah, it is dry, could be considered intermittent, but does that hold forever? I don't know that.
On the USGS map, that part of the stream that's listed as intermittent is intermittent. The
That part
rest of it is perennial.
above and below it is perennial.
Map, but this light blue on light green is solid right here, and then it turns dash back here. It's on
What's the
better.
data? Yeah, good.
not that I want to keep interrupting or anything, but I think you need to stick with the regulations and what the regulations say. So the regulations, and
Which regulations are you referring to?
this is the
State or the?
wetlands regulations, the state regulations. With respect to perennial presumption, which you are referring to as being shown on USGS map, that's what really triggers whether or not it starts as perennial or intermittent. If it's not shown as perennial, then you consider it intermittent. So it says respect with perennial, the regulations, I'll pass over the numbers and state that notwithstanding 310 CMR 10.582A1.A through C, the issuing authority shall find, you folks, that any stream is intermittent based upon a documented field observation that the stream is not flowing. That's what we're talking about, that the stream was not flowing. A documented field observation shall be made by a competent source, Goddard Consulting, and shall be based upon an observation made at least once per day over 4 days in any consecutive 12-month period during a non-drought period on a stream not significantly affected by drawdown from withdrawals of water supply wells, direct withdrawals, impoundments, or other human-made flow reductions or diversions. These aren't the criteria that these are the regulations that allow for the overcoming of a presumption of a USGS map showing it as perennial. And that's not discretionary, it's shall is a mandatory finding. So I know there's always gonna be differences of opinion based on weather conditions and other things like that, but this is what it says, and I don't know what else to say. This is what it says, and this is what was applied in 2013 or 2014 when the first determination was made that it was intermittent. We could come back here in July and do it again if you want. It's gonna be dry.
But also you could do it every 3 months and maybe not come up with the same results. Doing 4 days consecutively during a dry period works entirely in your favor.
But that's the way the regulations
I
are
know,
made.
but I
But
understand.
he meets the letter of the law.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So-
You're trying to make a point, you go back in July and look at it in July. I'm making the point that it says over 12 consecutive months. It's not saying you need to do every 3 months. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, you're saying you don't pick and choose. You did pick and choose. You absolutely picked and chose. And I'm not saying that's a problem. You have the right to do that.
We go by the regulations.
I know.
Okay, everybody has, you can say, hey, the regulations are gray areas or they're not written properly or whatever, but this is the way it's been administered for many years. I don't know, how many years, Paul, have these regulations been in place?
Well, these are slightly different. Riverfront started in 1996. They've had
These are
essentially
2014.
they tweaked the language a little bit, but it's been essentially the same since 1996.
It's 30 years almost.
They
So,
changed, the thing that changed over that time was the definition of drought. By the way, I'm Paul McManus from Ecotech. I'm on for the Prospect Street, similar filing. So the thing that changed was the definition of a drought. They used to do that differently. Now they say the drought is Drought Management Task Force. They're mapping, that's it. They draw a pretty bright line. It's for these regs, it's an unusually bright line, which in my existence is good because it allows us to make a definitive. It allows us to make a definitive statement. This is where I believe you fall in the regs. Period.
But
so
the Bellingham wetland regulations do not make a difference between intermittent and perennial stream.
If I can address that, Mr. Chairman. The definition of a stream doesn't talk about that. And the definition of a stream per se under the state regs, you have a stream and then you have a perennial stream as a subset. But the Bellingham definition of riverfront does talk about perennial flow.
But not intermittent.
Excuse me?
But not intermittent.
Yeah, intermittent is the thing at question, correct?
Well, it makes, I was just looking at it, it makes a distinction with respect to, for riverfront under your local bylaw regs, riverfront, I have it here, 200 feet horizontally landward from mean annual high water line. The 200-foot riverfront area shall apply to perennial flowing river, streams, brooks, or creeks.
Right, but Ariana just read that earlier too, and I commented, it didn't refer to intermittent, so, right, so it's referring to it as protected and it's a perennial in that definition for the bylaws. So I think that our choices, to go back to what Steve had asked, are to approve or not approve the RDA. And then if you don't want to approve it, then we need to have rationale for doing that. If we want to approve it, then obviously you're agreeing with the applicant's view that it is intermittent, and we would confirm that by.
Are there any photographs of your?
they're in the report that was
Yeah, the
submitted.
stream
Yeah, and
determination.
I don't think we're discussing the applicant's view. I think at this point, we're discussing the applicant's evidence.
Evidence, well, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
evidence.
Oh.
You've
The information-
submitted you've submitted evidence,
Right, from a
Information.
from a qualified.
qualified.
Right.
well.
Power of one word.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so the information and the.
As much as
evidence provided by the applicant.
I think we were in a drought, the state does not concur with that.
And timing wise.
And timing wise, based on that, they meet the criteria
Right.
for calling it an intermittent stream.
I think they might change them.
Well, if they do, then that changes the facts.
they're not gonna change their mind. These are findings that's already in the books. They're not retroactive. We're going back to
That's
September.
how you determine drought.
No, I think what Rose was saying, and I think I have to agree with this, is as the drought task force has moved forward month to month, they've made it pretty clear in the minutes and their support that they would consider changing drought status, but in no regards, and Hannah had checked on this with them too, with the DEP too. Would they go back and say, oh, well, it's really been a drought longer than we thought, so even though we raised Bellingham, for example, and this part of the state to drought level 2 in November or December, as far as Brian just pointed out, might be at level 1 or 2 for us. They won't go back and say, well, it could have been back like that in September. They basically said that they won't do that. It would have been nice if they had caught the fact that there's 2 watersheds in Bellingham, one the Blackstone, and one the Charles, but they didn't do that for whatever reason, and didn't want to change that either. When we asked them about that, we've questioned them on that too, because the other project that's coming up does have 2 watersheds in it, or is in the other watershed. Okay, so back to
Can I
this.
ask a question? Lou, what is it you intend to do with this stream? Should I assume the reason you're asking is you're gonna fill it in or take it out?
Oh,
or-
what do you mean, fill in the stream? No, we can't touch it. The stream is under jurisdiction. I mean, as you folks have.
What's the importance of this determination for your plan?
It's a one less regulatory hurdle that we have to be aware of. In other words, 200 feet is a preventative. You can't do anything within 200 feet. And so that number 1 goes away. And it gets reduced to 100 feet, 100-foot buffer, then it goes to the local 50 foot and 50, 25 and 50 feet, whatever your setbacks are. It goes to that parameter, and it just allows a less, more flexibility to the development. Now, it may not come into play at all with what we end up doing there, because we have a lot of other regulatory hurdles to deal with there. It's a large piece of property, but this is just an opportunity with the finding that we've made and that we observed to get it on the books, so that when we file our permits or our notice of intents, we're not dealing with that issue at that point. It's already been.
So by the reduction, it opens up more usable land.
Less restricted land, not more usable necessarily, but less restricted, because like I said, you folks will have 100-foot buffer from wherever these streams are, the intermittent streams and the BBW. Keeping in mind that the stream is a channel, there's wetlands on either side of the channel, so that may extend further out. What the stream channel is, but the riverfront regulation measures from the mean annual high water mark of the stream, notwithstanding where the wetland line may be. So you may have a stream, and then you may have 100 feet of wetlands, and then you have another 100 feet beyond that you have jurisdiction over. So it's just something to eliminate from.
I understand.
We don't have to do all analysis. We don't, there's a lot of other things that go along with the riverfront regulations that we would not have to.
It does appear to me, though, that the Bellingham bylaws are stricter than the state bylaws. So would it even matter if we say it's intermittent or not? But because it appears by the Bellingham bylaws that whether it's an intermittent or perennial stream, the 200-foot would still apply.
Let's hope that we don't go there, because I don't think you'd be correct.
Well, I would love if someone could explain if I'm incorrect, but I'm looking at the bylaws right now, and I think that would be important in making this decision. Or
I think, Pam, what we're seeing is that the intermittent category is not in the bylaws to protect the streams. Perennial is mentioned, but we did not see the word intermittent in that part of the regulations.
so should we then assume that an intermittent stream is just a stream, or?
It's not a perennial if it's intermittent, so those are 2 categories of stream pretty much, and
Mhm.
so if intermittent is not provided the same level of higher protection or somewhat higher protection than the state level, in our bylaws, if intermittent is not mentioned, then it's not there. And so we could deal with it if it was perennial, but if the applicant's evidence and information indicates that it is not perennial and it is intermittent, then that same level of local bylaw protection does not apply. It still has protection under intermittent status, but just not the 200-foot riverfront.
Well, and we could issue the RDA to, confirm its intermittent status. And if in fact we determine later on that after further research, that the bylaw does offer additional protection, then it offers additional protection regardless of the RDA.
That'll have to do with the NOI when they.
Right,
for the
that'll be
actual-
down the road, because it won't affect the RDA. We said it's intermittent. But if we determine that the town bylaw adds additional protections to intermittent streams as well as perennial streams, then that is what it is.
Especially if there's no separation
Correct.
between the two.
Correct, then
Yeah, it just says streams.
Yeah, then it is what it is at that point.
Okay. Any other questions about the RDA before for Blackstone Street / Clear Stream?
Both, or is it just one?
I think the project location is off of Blackstone Street, but it's called Quick Stream. Is that what you're saying?
It's called Quick Stream, believe it or not.
Not that quick.
Not here tonight. Okay, so anything else from the commission members? Questions? Okay, I'll look for a motion to accept the RDA for Blackstone Street Quick Stream, and
What kind of, are we issuing a negative determination? Are we issuing a positive determination?
in this case, I think we're assuming it's.
They're asking for a determination. What kind are we proposing to give? We have two choices.
We do. Whoever makes the motion, can
Let's-
put that in.
I'll ask the applicant to request.
You're requesting a negative determination or a positive determination?
I think this question comes up a lot because this doesn't fit well in the box.
No, we don't do this.
Yeah,
We-
it
this
just
is
doesn't
not-
fit
this is
well in
not
the
a
box.
common No.
My
Because of an
suggestion
RDA.
would be that you issue a positive determination that it is a stream and that the stream is intermittent. And that way, it's very unambiguous. I believe that's where you're going, but if I'm correct, then that's the way I would phrase it.
I did talk to DEP about this question just in general, and they said that they would recommend a positive and a negative. So applying positive, that we did not confirm the boundaries of the wetland because no confirmation of wetland boundaries has been done. And then a negative that riverfront area doesn't apply to that area. That was just what the,
Oh, is that because the way the project description is focused, it doesn't say
exactly.
decide whether it's an intermittent stream or not? That's not what you
Right.
put in the description of the project. It says jurisdictional determination of land surrounding portion, which would be the wetlands around it,
Right.
which would explain
We're
why
making
they
no,
would want
we are
to.
making no determination of the wetlands surrounding it.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. We're not asking for that.
Yeah, I think you can do it any way you want it, but it would be, obviously incumbent on you to just make your language clear, not just check a box, but to put
Yeah,
in
we
some
can put
very
that in
clear
language that
language.
we're making no determination.
Yeah.
We are not making any determination about the surrounding wetlands or boundaries or
Correct.
anything like that,
Mhm.
just in terms of the
But
flow
they've
of
actually
the stream.
suggested
We
doing
are
positive
just,
and negative, so somebody looking this down the road is like, let's do this side.
Yeah, you can do, there is the option of both, having both.
Okay,
Mhm.
so did anybody feel confident having qualified enough to phrase that as a motion for me to?
give it a shot. Propose that we issue a positive determination for the status of the stream being intermittent. And I also propose that we should probably do them separately. They need separate votes.
I think,
That's one
since DEP didn't say put it all,
Same form, you check both boxes, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's one.
Yeah,
Oh, it's one determination. Okay, then, and in addition, we issue also, concurrently issue a negative determination that we are making no judgments or we're making no determinations as to the jurisdictional limits of the existing wetlands.
And would that be the land surrounding Quick Stream
Correct.
as worded here?
Correct.
I think we should tie it
Okay. Yeah.
to that.
we're making no jurisdictional determination of the land surrounding portion of Quick Stream.
Correct.
Which would be, okay, I'm not saying it's all of them. Okay. That motion seems to be pretty clear. Hannah, you got enough notes to support minute taker? Okay.
And we're doing this with the assumption that we can preserve the wetland rights relative to the land surrounding that.
As soon as you give me a second, I'll answer that. You have to have a second before. we discuss. 1 second.
Sure.
All right, go ahead. Say your question again. So you want to know if we have.
We're proceeding with this motion with the understanding that we can continue to
No filing has been made on anything else, there is no filing currently before us.
Okay, good.
So the NRI would be the next step down the road and. At that time,
The
too.
negative determination is just to clarify that
Yeah,
this is
I
not,
understand that.
there's nothing
Got it.
else going on here except for the very narrow definition of the stream staff.
Okay, is everybody clear on that? Enough for a vote? Okay, James. Ariane,
Nay.
Lincoln, Neil,
Aye.
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 Pam.
Nay.
Okay, so we have 2 no's and 5 ayes, so motion passes. Okay. Don't go anywhere. Well, Lou, don't go anywhere. Awesome. Oh. The next item on the agenda is the RDA for Prospect Street, Lake Street. Oak Grove. Again, this is a jurisdictional determination of land surrounding the portion of Oak Grove. And although it's not stated here, a determination of the status of Oak Brook as a intermittent stream, which shows that are written.
And that's also in this collection.
Yes.
They were both in this file.
No, I had 2 separate packages.
Yeah, there's some.
Separate.
This is the
one.
package that you have right now is strictly for Holbrook. And it contains, many of the documents that we referred to in the previous RDA, including, the minutes of the meetings, the maps, the, photographs, the report prepared by, Ecotech, the stream stats, and, all of that information that is, part of that, package.
Okay. Well, what do we do?
But I guess, I think, back in September when we did this, I had, I don't know how many, 3 or 4 members of the commission that were out there with me on, 7th of September. We walked the stream. It was dry, all the way down to the property line, and then previous to that, Ecotech, Mr. McManus and his team were out there and they observed it, I was there on the 2nd and they were there the 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. We walked it ourselves on the 7th of September. All in a non-drought time of year.
This stream flows north to south, correct, Lou?
North.
Correct.
Yeah,
Flows
north
north
to
to
south,
south.
pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
North.
In the September 30th letter from Ecotech to the commission. As the commission is aware, the lower portion of the stream, which is where, according to this December letter, the stream stats analysis to take it conservatively conducted at a point downstream of the proposed development site, but not off the site? Or was it on the site, but down at the southern end?
We mapped and documented intermittent conditions for the length of the site till we hit the property line.
Okay, well, then I'm confused as to conservatively conducted at a point downstream of the proposed development site. That's the stream stats analysis from your letter.
You have the stream stats showing.
It looks like it's within the property, if that's what that dot is indicating right there, but right on the edge of the border of it. So I'm just trying to make the point that stream stat analysis was done at the southernmost point pretty much of the shaded area, which is, I'm not sure if that's the watershed or the property or where the information you provided on that map. It's nothing's marked on it, so I'm just trying to guess it.
When you did that.
Yeah, it's downstream of the development, so that
But still on the property.
So let me shot out here.
I think that's the same one Paul's looking at, it's just not in color. Yours isn't in color.
So this commission to, what we're talking about is from this point north, this was always intermittent. On the USGS map, from this point down, it shows as perennial. Now, what we're saying today is that from this point down is also intermittent based on the observations and the regulations. Meaning, we observed the stream channel to be dry for 4 consecutive days during a non-drought calendar year. So that's what this is happening. Now, I asked Paul to do the stream stats because under the regulations, if the watershed is less than 0.5 square miles, then that's one of the criterias that it's an intermittent stream. So our finding on.
The 0.42 square miles that you came up with for the watershed for this area, where was that derived from?
Stream stats.
That 0.42 is at the point where, no, it's at the beginning of the perennial mapping. Because this site's a little different because the upper portion of the stream is mapped intermittent. And then the USGS line goes from the thin line to the thick line.
Correct.
At the point that Lou just noted.
Right.
Near the old cart path crossing,
Just above.
just above.
Little
just
bit,
above-
couple hundred feet
just above,
upstream.
yes.
Yep, exactly. So the way these regs read, there's a hierarchy of determining the flow presumption. The first step in the hierarchy is if it's mapped perennial by USGS, you presume that it's perennial. And then you could potentially overcome that, but that's your presumption. If it's not mapped perennial, either mapped intermittent or potentially not mapped at all, because some streams are just not mapped by USGS. So if it's not mapped perennial, then the hierarchy says, okay, now you look at watershed size. If it's over 1 square mile of contributing watershed, it's presumed perennial, same as if it was mapped perennial. If it's less than a half square mile watershed, then the presumption is intermittent. If it's in between those two criteria, in other words, if it's between a half and a full square mile watershed, then the regs tell us to go to stream stats and look at the 99% flow duration. So because this upper portion is not mapped perennial, we're with that information alone, we don't have an answer. So the regs tell us what you do now is you look at the watershed size. And we looked at the watershed size using stream stats. And the stream stats tells us that at that point, at that transition point on the mapping, it's 0.42 square miles. So the regs say, given that 0.42 square mile, they say the presumption is intermittent.
So I have a question that's related to that. It's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. But if something is spring fed and it's within that, does that alter anything? I mean, if you have a spring coming out of the ground, regardless of the size of the watershed, right, you can create water that ends up into that perennial stream, no?
It is possible, very, very rare in my experience. I've been doing this obviously since '96 and before. It is very rare, but possible that we find a stream that actually flows all the time. Your permanent spring scenario that these regulations don't capture. I have seen that, I don't know, probably just a couple times in almost 30 years of having these regs.
I don't know if there's a spring on this side.
Well, the reason I bring it up is, I remember years ago reading Bellingham history. The book was written in like 1912 or something. And I was always under the impression that Hogue Brook was a spring because of the description in there was that there was a natural spring. The Indians used to use it in that area. I don't know specifically if it was called Hogue, and it was also called Fortune's Spring, which was an Indian name. And so I was always under the impression that that area was spring fed, but I am not familiar with there being an actual spring there.
I've gone up and down it many times, most recently in September. 2 of the 4 days of photo documentation were me. And there was no flow for that whole length. So, but your scenario is conceivable. And as I said, in such a scenario, the regulations don't capture it. But I don't think that's the case here.
If the upstream portion is defined as intermittent, why would they, and there's no feed points, additional feed points, why would they determine the downstream portion to be perennial?
I can only guess sometimes why USGS draws the maps the way they do.
Okay.
Just as an example, one just today in Shrewsbury, somebody sent me information on the site, I pulled up the maps. And there's a tiny watershed in Shrewsbury, and there's a stream, and the beginning mapping of the stream is a perennial line. I have no idea. It's a very, very small watershed.
For the board, this is what you and I walked with Hannah and Lou. And we walked pretty much the entire length of your property. And there was no flow. It was best to traverse the actual stream bed.
And the brush, yeah.
And the brush. Now, while it wasn't flowing, not even a trickle, it wasn't dry. There was mud. But there was no, I mean, you couldn't take a cup and capture anything. You would.
And I think we're in the same situation as we were with Quick Stream. They meet the regulatory definition.
Can I ask a quick question about those stream stats?
Go ahead.
On the low flow statistics, it by the 0.42 square miles, it appears with an error. Can I understand what that error means? Does that mean that 0.42 is not accurate, or we know it's pretty accurate?
No, the 0.42 is the watershed area. The error message, and we see it all the time when we get these, has to do with the flow predictions. Because basically the way the folks from USGS have explained this, you know, they didn't write this software for this purpose. The software was adopted by DEP because it was a useful and in my experience, pretty good, really, pretty good predictor of the flow. But their parameters, you know, there's a lot of mathematics that go on in the background here. And in terms of their confidence with the statistics, the people that wrote the model felt that it could only be really relied on as hard numbers above a certain size threshold. I don't remember what that is, but the area calculation is based upon the software interpreting the topographic contours. But the error relates to the flow predictions.
Okay, so the error does not relate to the area, it's to the flow predictions.
Correct.
So you took the watershed area from the transition point between intermittent perennial on the USGS, as opposed to at the southern end of the property.
That's correct.
So you're eliminating potentially, you're eliminating any flow contributing to the mapped perennial side based on that.
No, we're not eliminating it, but
You're
see, because
you're taking it out of the watershed calculation.
no. We had to do that upper portion because when you have an intermittent stream, if you remember that hierarchy, when you have an intermittent stream, you don't have an answer. Is this perennial, does it have riverfront? So you need to, when you have an intermittent stream, you need to go and look at the watershed size. And then if your watershed is between a half and a full square mile, then you need to look at these flow prediction parameters.
But the 0.42, is that for the whole site or just for the half that is the perennial?
That is for the watershed upstream of the transition point.
So the intermittent section.
Yes, just the intermittent.
Just the intermittent section.
So the
Again,
watershed for the overall site is probably much larger than 0.42, somewhat larger.
correct. I think I have that.
I looked and I didn't see something that was different.
I know I did it. I'm not sure it's here. I mean, we did it just as a point of interest. It's technically not germane, but it's really not germane, but, you know, we often do it frankly as a point of curiosity.
So you don't have to look at the watershed if it is perennial, but you're disputing the perennial portion below because and asking for it to be called intermittent. So why would you not now consider the watershed size for the entire site? The intermittent top half, which you did, which is 0.42, as well as the rest of it, which you're now claiming or want to have determined to be intermittent. So now the whole site is.
I don't need to look at it because it's map perennial, so the presumption's there. I didn't get past the first step in that hierarchy. It's map perennial. That's my presumption, done.
But you're asking to have that changed.
Correct.
Based on the non-flowing
But
conditions.
the presumption, and again, like my site in Shrewsbury, which now, you know, now we're in a rainy period, we're not gonna be able to evaluate whether that's intermittent, probably for some number of months. But it's map perennial, so they own that unless and until we can document the 4 days of no flow.
Right, so if the status is changed and agreed upon by the commission and the jurisdictional body here, that the Hogue Brooks section that is perennial, the lower half, you're not asking to have the whole stream length throughout the entire property declared intermittent because the top half already is, in your view, correct? Or are you asking for the entire length to be?
In the upper portion, my opinion, based upon the analysis, is that it should be determined to be intermittent. But from a regulatory standpoint, that's my opinion. I stand by it. I'm quite confident in it. But it's not the black and white determination that the perennial map stream is.
So why didn't we make this determination 3 years ago when we were doing the stream crossing for the previous development and all that water under the culvert, shall we say?
Well, I'll say this, number one, I wasn't paying attention. Number two is we weren't in a non-drought. In 2021 and 2021, we weren't in a non-drought.
It was a declared drought. So
So
I
it
should have
didn't
mentioned
count.
that if you're in I think it's understood, but I'll say it just to be clear. If you're in a declared drought under the drought task force, then I can have 10 days of non-photos and they don't count.
Right,
It's just, it seems very advantageous for you, that's all.
Well, be quite honest with you, with all the money that I spent fighting that particular thing, this could have been an issue that had gone away back then. But that being said, when we started the process, we had this flagging done. We weren't in a non-drought scenario because I would go out there quite often and say, hey, it's not flowing. Paul would say, hey, we're not in a non-drought scenario.
Doesn't count.
Doesn't count. So now, we could have done it last year because we were in a non-drought scenario, but I wasn't paying attention to the regulations. And apparently my consultants weren't either. So in any case, when I went out there on Labor Day weekend, I said, hey, we're no flow here. I walked the whole line just like I walked with you. We're in a no flow condition here in a non-drought season. Get out here and document it so that we can file for this intermittent status. That's how it arrived. But you're right, we did waste a lot of time on this, not waste.
Well, initially, we couldn't go through this exercise because it was a declared drought.
Right.
So any such observations would not have counted.
I have a question about the watershed.
Hannah, and then we have later and then get you then.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, it is like 8:17.
Yeah, I know, we do need to move this along. I was thinking the same thing. Ma'am, do you have a question about this?
I'd like to clarify something. This comes from that pond near Prospect Street,
No, this is the other one. That one's definitely a river.
the one that goes under lake.
Right. We're not arguing
So
that.
you're talking about the little vernal pool kind of thing that has a little stream that goes down towards Blackmore?
This is the one, if you're familiar with the property, there's an access path that goes into the pit.
Yep,
It's the stream that passes through the culvert under that access path into the pit.
Into the, so that little vernal pond, kind of like a little pond.
There's a little
And
ponding area
it dried up.
upstream
It
of the
did dry
crossing.
up when we had the drought, but, it's always had water.
So it's the timing of, excuse
And
me.
we can
so-
tell by the vegetation around it.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to Don.
Yeah.
We need to do, we do need to move this along. We've been spending a lot
Yeah,
of
this
time.
will, I think, be a quick one. If you can go back to where the watershed, I just want to understand how you define what the watershed is. As I'm looking on the screen, I didn't see it here, but I saw it with the materials that you sent. I'm just curious, there's streams that come down here in what I'm looking at that's online, but the yellow area that you highlighted doesn't touch those streams. It's within I don't know what the scale of the map is,
I
but
think
it's,
the topo splits there, so I think that's a part of a different watershed.
oh, okay, that's what I was.
It's
It's
defined,
visually
it's defined
odd.
based on the USGS topographic map.
So it's just purely on that. So even though the stream comes adjacent to it, it could be on the other side of a ridge. Okay.
Okay, sir, and we're gonna move along and move this to a motion in a minute. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I live at the end of Backmont Street, right at the gate. I've walked that property many times. I've been there over 13 years. I have never, ever seen it dry, ever before this year.
Right.
That little pond where there's a bridge abutment from the old railroad tracks years ago, right along where the walking path goes up and it curves. There's a path to the right and that little pond is on your left. That pond has never, ever, ever been dry until this year.
I agree.
And as you cross right there, and on your right is the remains of the abutment from a railroad trestle. And you fall along that path, you can see by the growth there that nothing substantial has grown. That's usually completely wet there. This year, I understand that you've got regulations and all that.
It could be flooded for the next 10 years in that area completely, and we could all be looking back and saying, well, that dry thing was just a fluke, but per the regulations, per the timing of the reports and so forth, we have to go by that. Doesn't mean that nobody's saying it's not a stream. They're just a different category of stream. The level of protection and jurisdictional regulations that we can apply after this designation is confirmed changes somewhat, but there still is protection in place, and nobody's
Just wanted
disputing what.
duly noted
Yes,
that we're having a very abnormal situation right now.
it could also stay dry for the next 10 years. We really don't know what the climate's gonna do, but thank you for your observation and
I don't think.
Good. we can operate if they're for certain portions of it, if it's determined that, for example, that we don't agree that it's intermittent, we can.
We don't, since the Blackstone River was at 8% flow.
During the time that the photos were issued, well, Blackstone River could be doing that, but if the site is dry,
In the Blackstone.
but Blackstone wasn't under drought, that was
In
September,
Rhode Island,
Mr. Chairman,
and not in our area.
yeah, I'll give you an example because we have two streams on this property. One is the one that's being referred to on the, runs from
Down by Lake
Prospect
Street,
Street to
yeah.
Lake Street. That is flowing, been flowing, never dry. So during the same time of year, so it's not. It's just this type of watershed that feeds into these areas. Now, that watershed is significantly bigger and the stream was flowing. Even though I was there almost weekly to see if it would dry, the flow would stop. Did not happen. Even when the drought was declared, it still was flowing. So I think you have to balance all of these observations for what they're
Those
worth.
two streams are not, just to be clear for the record, those two streams are not hydrologically.
They're not connected, right? Two separate
Which,
main
because
streams.
otherwise you'd be saying, why is an intermittent stream not being counted as part of the other one?
Exactly.
So when you're talking about now, little runs under SNET, is that correct?
Runs under Lake
And Cross Street.
and then comes back and goes back across Lake again towards Cross.
I don't,
And then, right.
I don't think the one that we're talking about being intermittent crosses Lake Street at all.
Correct, that one
It
doesn't.
takes a right turn and it goes underneath Cross Street. The one that my friend here has been observing that goes underneath Lake Street, that's the one that goes to the SNP.
It flows.
And that one is perennial.
And that one is perennial.
Okay.
So for Hope Brook, you want the section of that stream on your property, the whole section to be determined as intermittent.
Correct.
So why wasn't your point on stream stats at the very lowest corner of your property? Why was it like a quarter, not a quarter mile?
Because the stream stats analysis only matters for the portion that's mapped intermittent.
Why?
I'm sorry?
Why?
Because the regulations tell us that the presumption of perennial flow is applied to perennial mapped. So there's a transition point on the mapping. So it's incumbent upon me to do the stream stats analysis on the intermittent mapped portion, because the mapping doesn't provide any presumption. So the regs say intermittent mapping, do watershed analysis. And that's what we did. And the regs say further, if that watershed analysis is less than a half square mile, you're intermittent.
Just for that portion.
Just for that portion, that's correct. That's correct. The 0.42 evaluation is only for the portion from the transition upstream.
So you confirmed an intermittent on a stream that's already defined intermittent.
Well, be careful about using that defined. It's mapped as intermittent.
Okay, so you confirmed the map.
The classification under the regs for a mapped intermittent is based upon that hierarchy
So
analysis.
how do we take that and apply it to downstream perennial?
We do.
You don't.
We don't. They don't have anything to do, they technically don't have anything to do with each other. We're only talking about the part that is currently shown on USGS as perennial.
So
In
if
fact,
it's,
they don't even need to talk about that part that's intermittent.
if, for example, I had done the watershed analysis at that point and it was 0.6 square miles, the regs would then tell me, go look at the flow predictions. And if the flow predictions were high enough for that upper portion, then the presumption on that upper portion would also be perennial. And as a practical matter, what that would have meant is that when we did our photo documentation, we would have added another bunch of photo spots and been talking to you about overcoming that presumption. Hypothetical, because the analysis tells me for that upper portion that it's in fact intermittent. So it's really, it's because of that hierarchy and the mapping and the fact that there's a transition in the middle of the property, you have to look at the two sections differently. And that's why we only do the streams, the watershed analysis on the upper portion.
Well, that just means we're not making the determination for the lower portion.
So you're on the
Well, I think they're, the overcoming the presumption of perennial stream status is the photos. So we have to analyze the photos or you have to analyze the photos to determine if that photographic evidence overturns the presumption of it being perennial.
As it was for the other portion, the other project just before the collection street.
Yes.
Correct.
Same scenario.
So the
Same
end
scenario
result
for
would be that the entire site would be on that stream, Oak Brook, would be intermittent if this RDA is approved, because we're basically overcoming the presumption of perennial that the USGS has mapped as perennial for the lower half, the southern half of the stream. And then the entire site for that one brook, not the other one that's on the site, would be intermittent going forward.
That is the
Again,
request.
but yeah, the project description comes from you guys, correct? In the minute, or are you just summarizing that?
I just summarize it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it more detailed in its request for this RDA? Like you want to have half the site basically perennial, that's currently perennial, designated intermittent and so forth? Because in the actual RDA, have to go back and reread it and see if it was phrased that way. This should be more clearly focused. There's somewhere here that we're trying to come up with a motion on as we struggled with the last one. Would have been helped by having a real clear from you guys exactly what you want to determine. In this case, it's more complicated because it's half the site is real.
Well,
No, it isn't.
Well, no, the whole site will be intermittent, but if it's approved, but.
I'm asking,
From the perennial.
Mr. Chairman, the RDA clearly says determination of status of perennial stream. I don't know, how much clarity do you wanna, since there's only. And we name, Hogue Brook as the.
Okay,
Area
that's-
description.
So I just want to be clear, that was a little bit different in the RDA documentation than it is in the summary of the description, which you can, that's fine.
I thought I did a pretty good job.
Okay, so does someone want to ask any other questions on the commission point, or are we ready to move to someone making a motion?
John, you said you visited the site and it was muddy, right?
Yeah, there was no flow, there was no pooling, but it was wet.
Very well. In some places. And. But that might have been the result of soil changes,
Well,
because it was very silty and flat in some places.
but no flow is no flow.
Yeah, there was no flow. We walked
Because
the
at some
stream
point,
bed the whole way.
I'm literally walking on a gravel stream bed. In other places, I'm sinking in mud.
Mud, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking the question
In
earlier
the
about
same
the
stream
spring.
bed.
You know, is there a spring? Does the spring affect it? I didn't see water bubbling out of the ground, but we saw these wet spots when everything else was, pretty dry.
Yeah, those could be like contours of the
Yeah.
stream channel not being even.
Any other questions?
Silt deposits.
Any other questions on the commission members? We do need to move this along. Mr. Sturdy.
No question, just a quick comment, Mike, Mr. Chairman, if I may. I'm struggling to make a determination on this. In a fluke year, when this was dry, only weeks, if not days, before the drought determination came through. And the reality is that group could have been month behind on their review of drought periods. So I'm not sure what I've seen as dry areas, including my own yard.
I mean, based on your site walk, days versus weeks for the drought status change,
Correct.
because it wasn't until the November that it changed
Yeah,
on the,
it was retroactive.
That's how they do it though.
but then they go back to like 1 month and
Yeah,
go back and forth.
Well, they
1 month.
look at the last 3 months, I think, to determine whether it's like the average of the 3 months. There's a couple different parameters.
But we were out, what?
September.
Someone want to make a motion for the commission? We need to move this along. You guys can vote and determine your decision at this time, but somebody needs to make a motion.
We're doing the same thing, negative and positive.
I think that's the smart thing to do since DEP seems to want it that way, and since we don't. For the project description, we need to be careful to just mention that we're not covering anything about the land around it, it's just the determination of the streams. So. Based on what you.
Be the same motion as last time.
Yeah, you want to make that motion because you said it so well the first
I
time.
don't remember it.
Positive
It's been
determination.
so long since I made the last one.
Yes, I know, we need to move on.
Short-term memories. So I move that we issue a negative determination for the status of the perennial stream. To intermittent,
We did positive. last
and
time. We did positive. determination.
positive, sorry, my bad, positive determination that it's an intermittent stream,
Oh, Brook.
Oak Brook.
And
And then a negative determination for any other jurisdictional matters relating to the land surrounding the brook.
Second from James, thank you. All right, any other discussion? Don, oh, sorry.
Did you have a question? You started
No.
to say something.
Okay, Don,
Aye.
Steve,
Nay,
Marianne,
Nay.
James,
Aye.
Pam?
Nay.
So.
4-3.
4-3, so I don't need to vote. Okay, passes.
Sounds good. It's 4-3 with you. That's why you said on it.
It's 3-3 plus you.
Oh.
So you have to vote.
Based on regulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. See you on the 22nd.
Yeah, good. We've got a continuation request for the next one on the hearing, so I'm down on the 24th Hampton Street, I'm sorry, Hampton Court, an RDA new hearing, removal of trees within 100-foot buffer zone. The applicant has asked, I have to try to mispronounce his name, so I'm trying to find. The applicant is property owner, I believe, and he has requested that they continue the 22nd hearing because they couldn't get a arborist come in to give us the backup that we usually ask for a situation like this with his trees. That should come down in the property owner's opinion. We could look for some. Ariane's moved it. 22nd. Anybody else want to second that?
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion? 7 p.m. For the record. No other discussion. Pam?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Steve? Aye. Ariane?
Aye.
James? Aye. Well, yeah, I can, commissioner just note that the vice chair stepped out of them, so it's not voting on this particular item. Okay, so that's passed and moves to the 22nd continue. Next item is 398 Hartford Avenue. If someone is here for that, please come forward. Thank you. For your patience, this is a new hearing for an RDA for 398 Hartford Avenue, removal of 2 conjoined trees within 100,000 feet. It's the first time we've had this. Conjoined trees and 100 within 100-foot buffer zone. John Velasco.
Yep.
Is the applicant and representing himself. And would you like to give us a brief description of, we did receive the information, the portals and photos and so forth, but it doesn't hurt to have this, you summarize in any way you'd like to do so.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, to make it fairly quick for you guys, we have a tree within 100 feet of the wetlands determination. It is dead. We had Sharon Tree come out and do give us a quote, and they did determine it dead. It is one tree. They told us it's a twin tree. I know you guys just said that, but
Yeah, it looks
So
like
we're calling it
2
one-
trunks that are joined at the very base.
exactly, yes, we're calling it one tree, I guess. But the reason we want it to removed is the proximity to the garage there. That's kind of it.
Right, there was an old septic plan that was provided in the portal for, which showed the property.
Yeah.
Your plan was, or the photo, wasn't making it clear where exactly the tree is. So we turn that 90. I think that one there is.
It's like 10 or 15 feet off the.
But yeah.
It looks like 10 or 15 feet off the existing garage, but.
Yep.
I thought there was another. Okay, so the garage is part of the house.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
I wasn't sure it was a separate garage. So based on where the septic, I think that's a D box or whatever in the X there, it's between that and because in the picture I couldn't tell where, I know it looked close, but is that relatively speaking about how many feet off the garage?
10 to 15 feet.
So it'd be in between the D box and that.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so it's well within the,
Yes.
it's within the 100, but outside of no.
I think it's outside the 50.
It's outside the 50. with
Outside
the-
50, but within 100. Okay, and you're adjacent to a house and it's been determined to be dead by professional landscape,
398.
referred to as an ash.
Taking down this tree.
They're gonna take down your ash tray at the end.
I know, I did. That was whoever
I'm
wrote that.
not quibbling with.
What's the
Aaron.
date of the photograph?
What's that?
The date of the photograph?
That's late summer of 24. I don't have an exact date, but the condition has gotten worse. There's bark falling off it.
Because there's no foliage
Right, that is late summer.
in that tree at the time of the picture.
Yeah,
Although the poison ivy at the bottom looks pretty healthy.
I know. We're aware of that, yes.
And you do mention, although Sharon didn't put in a proposal and to not grind, that you do say that it's not gonna be ground, which we would require.
We're gonna lose some, yeah.
You leave it something of a stump, and,
50, between 15 and.
The tree's about here.
75 foot from the BMW.
There's the 100, 50.
okay, any questions from the commission members about this?
Nope.
they're gonna operate off the driveway pretty much, they're not gonna be going to.
Exactly, yeah, they're gonna
the
drive
area there.
bucket over the power lines are kind of right there too, so
Yeah.
they have to work around that, but.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Any other questions? So.
They might want to warn them that they're doing that work too.
Accept a motion for a negative RDA for the removal of 2 conjoined trees.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Second.
thank you. Any other discussion? Pam?
Any
Aye.
conditions,
Oh, yeah,
any conditions about, we're gonna put any condition, a negative with conditions on, no, leave the stump.
just let us know when it's been done, so
Yes.
administrator or somebody found to take a look. They were stated in the plan to remove this in the application that they would be working off the driveway, so I think they're covered there.
Yeah.
Straightforward, yeah. And but a lot of conditions on this is.
No, just.
Okay. Yes, Pam, I got your eye, Don.
Aye.
Okay, that's Steve. All right. Neil.
Yeah. Aye.
Ariana.
Aye.
James.
Aye.
and Mike. Okay, unanimous, so thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
So, thank
Good
you.
You too.
I hear you complain about taking too long now.
Going back and forth, I killed it, 10 seconds. All right, 15 Cranberry Meadow, if somebody's here for that, please come forward, thank you. This is a new hearing for a notice of intent, 15 Cranberry Meadow Drive. Construction of a garage within the 100-foot buffer zone. John, look here, thank you. I know when you pronounce it. Is the applicant and Dan Driscoll from O'Driscoll Land Surveying. O'Driscoll. From O'Driscoll Land Surveying Inc. in Medway is the representative. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening, all.
Good evening. Thank you for patience.
I got these green cards if you want them.
No, we asked the applicant to hold on to those.
Okay.
It will only, unless you want to change the way you've been doing it. You want to accept them, because in the past, we've asked the applicant to hold on to those green cards, notifying the butters of this. Until, and if it ever arises that one of them says, we never got notified, then we'd ask you for.
That's fine, I'll hold on. I did send Hannah the receipts.
Yep.
Okay, that's
yeah,
fine.
I
The receipts
found
are fine, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll leave Hannah to handle
Otherwise, we
that.
end up with.
Piles of green cards that we don't have any.
Piles and piles of green cards, we have nowhere to store.
Okay, so if you'd like to give a brief,
Yes, sure. So again, my name's Dan, Land Surveying. John was here, the owner. John would like to build a proposed garage on his property. That's shown, is marked proposed garage. It's the distance to the wetlands is like 58 feet in the back. Along with building that garage, he's gonna take down the existing one that has been discovered to be over the property.
I was gonna say, there was a little bit of one there.
That was built about 35 years ago.
So you only park in the front half of the garage to see how many would come?
I didn't realize it, so I want to take care of it.
Okay.
So basically, the reason for building the garage is to take down that existing one and still provide a garage for some vehicles that he has. The reason I stopped the proposed erosion control barrier and not bring it around the garage is until we can, talk to that abutter, and we're gonna have to get permission to go on his property, put the erosion control in, take the garage down. John's gonna do this in phases, if you will. In other words, the proposed garage is gonna be built first so that the vehicles that he owns, it's like a couple little tractors, can stay in that existing garage until that one is built. And then he'd go ahead and take down the existing.
When you say phased, over what period of time do you anticipate the whole
No, it's
project?
not gonna be a couple months.
But basically do one, then.
Yeah, first
Just
will be
move
one
everything
step.
out.
If you don't get permission to go on the property owner's property to put the barriers / remove the garage, although I can't imagine why someone would want to have.
I wouldn't wanna look at that every day, so I would
Yeah.
think they want it removed.
And the barriers should be protection for their property as well, getting erosion into their wetlands.
Well, the thing is, where he stops with that line 14 there.
Yeah.
There's a big culvert that comes from the back subdivision that drains into that.
From Quail Run.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes,
There's like a PVC
And I-
pipe.
I'm usually out there clearing it up, cleaning it up. He's got, there's like sand and silt from the road comes in through there.
And the end of the pipe is near 14,
Yes.
Yeah.
and it outflows from 14 towards the existing garage.
towards, well, it goes around,
Wetlands?
yeah, and it's
Into the wetlands.
Yeah, so starting about wetland flag 10, there's a ditch that runs from like wetland flag 1 through 10. And then there's another concrete pipe under Cranberry Meadow, so all that drainage is coming that way.
There is a drainage easement on the map I'm looking at here.
yeah.
So that seems to be probably where that pipe is going. They have a drainage easement. They just got permission at some point in time when they built Crow Run Road to drain off of that. It's probably not treated in any way.
No.
So,
No.
so.
Yeah, so I mean, when everything comes down off the road, I mean, we've been there almost 50 years. We were there before that even development was there.
Right.
So that's why that building is there on that property. Didn't realize it, but I clean out all that stream and then underneath Cranberry Meadow too, because it always gets clogged up with leaves and debris and all that stuff, so.
Does that drainage easement go underneath your property?
No, it comes, the
No,
development's
what's up?
behind us and it comes down off like on an angle. And it right behind the shed, the existing shed, where a big black pipe is. And it flows into the wetlands into that stream.
And
Because
then,
before that, prior to that, there was no water coming through there. That's all coming from up top.
right, the impervious paved areas and so forth. So when it flows down into the wetlands and then you say you clean underneath Cranberry Road,
Yeah,
Does it-
Cranberry Meadow, there's a
Cranberry-
pipe, there's a culvert.
it starts right near the edge of your old driveway or the driveway goes. down?
Yeah, right where that arrow is.
is, yeah.
Right where the arrow's
Right
floating.
near wetland flag 1.
Oh, okay, that's an arrow there.
Well, the arrow, the pointer from the computer.
Oh, the pointer, okay, so
Yeah,
I was looking.
yeah,
at
sorry.
Cursor there.
The way that property line angles like that, it's kind of like, probably right on the property line is where that culvert is that I, clear out. And then once I clear the leaves out, that thing just drains. There's no water in it, really.
And it goes to the other side of the road, which is what,
Yeah.
other houses on it or?
Yeah, on the other side of the street.
To go down to the pond?
Goes down to a swamp area across the street.
Okay. All right, well, it's good to be seeing it move out of an existing structure that is being torn down, taken away, and you're moving it closer to your, well, not only within your property, but further away from the wetlands, which is good. It's still within the 50-foot.
Sir, is there currently a trailer parked on that in front of that garage?
No, there was.
There was.
We saw a picture.
Yeah, I used to live in Rentham. I just sold my house in Rentham and moved in with my father because my mother died in May. So I'm there with him trying to, clear up all this stuff. And we had it surveyed and then I realized that shed was over the line and so I'm just trying to clean it up. And he sold his trailer because, school and driveway.
In the picture I'm asking, is that the property?
Yeah. Yep, okay, yep.
So it's pretty solid
This
ground.
original garage that you guys are planning on removing, was that, you said it was built like.
That was built
35
like 35 years
Was
ago.
that permitted to be built?
There's also, yeah, if you look on the,
What, I'm gonna ask a maybe seeming off question, what kind of floors in the old garage?
2001.
Cement.
I'm thinking of if garage has been around that many years, whether we have any remediation that might be required.
Well, after the garage has been removed. All the, it's gonna have to be removed in total, we'll have to get the foundation, flooring, whatever, it's gonna have to all come out, be loaned and restored because it's in the 25.
Stuff like that. Out and around the foundation and so forth. And in fact, we're talking about two different properties and two different property owners.
Well, hopefully it was, everything was in the garage.
Yeah.
When it leaked.
Do you know if there's any issues with oil stains, storage of oils and so forth, containers that might have been left behind the garage? When you say garage, I'm thinking of a garage, you service stuff. as opposed to-
Basically a big shed. It really isn't a
Okay,
garage.
but when
Yeah,
that word is
it's not
used,
garage.
I'm just trying to get a sense, because
Yeah.
we have had applicants who have taken over properties or acquired
It's
properties.
about to fall down. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, yeah, I understand that.
I get it.
But think of once it's gone out there, that the soils and so forth.
Right, no, I understand.
Because
Right.
especially as it's on somebody else's property, you could
Right.
be, facing more complicated situation. All right.
So I think there's gonna be two phases to this, the permitting of the new structure. And a separate section on removal and restoration of the existing structure. Oh, yeah, but when.
Yeah, we're
when
addressing
Hannah-
both areas, yes.
Yeah, when Hannah, if we approve this, when Hannah writes an order, that there's gonna be two parts about there's gonna be two phases to this, and they're gonna be created separately, where we've got the building of the new structure and the removal and the restoration of the buffer zone. Because we're 10 feet away on that back corner, so.
Correct.
We would want when the old shed comes out, we'd want that area.
Of course.
Is the old,
Loaned and seeded and planted with some native, we'd need a, planting schedule and get some native plants in there and kind of restore that to a nice.
It's just that little corner, right? That's over the property line or the whole thing,
The whole footprint of the shed,
the whole footprint?
yeah, because it's all within the 50 foot, it's all within the 50 foot.
Okay.
the existing garage, did that have a paved driveway, or what kind of driveway goes
Gravel.
up to
It
it?
says gravel.
Just gravel and dirt, okay, just want to make sure, it looked like that on the sketch, but I just want to be sure. That would require.
You wanna see a picture of it, Mike?
No, I saw the picture on Squirrel, but with the trailer there and so forth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I saw,
The plan says gravel drive, so.
for the old one? Okay, I could, that's fine, I believe. So one of the things I wanted to mention was you didn't want to proceed with putting the erosion control behind the proposed garage, even though it's gonna be the first phase until you've talked to the property owner. If that's in the order of conditions, which it would be to provide proper erosion control around the new building, you'll need to do that whether you've talked to the property owner or not.
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
because that's on your property, you'd be wrapping that fairly close to the proposed garage, you don't need to go out very far. You wouldn't be impacting the property line. When you do the other one, removing that garage, obviously you will secure permission to go on the property and do all that.
And there'll need to be erosion control around that
Correct,
as
right,
well.
right.
You know, and if
During
you-
the decommissioning.
And if the commission would like, I can draw in the proposed erosion control now and then just put some kind of note that says, proposed erosion control on land of.
Have you started that conversation yet?
I don't know, have you, John?
No.
Property of.
Well, we would need to know that before we can move forward
Yeah.
with a
We
final,
wouldn't be issuing an order until we know for a fact.
that you can actually do this.
And in the
Okay, so if
meantime-
it falls down, then I'm not responsible, then you're trying, it's above.
Well,
the
no,
law,
I mean,
just
but we
say I'm
can't
being
permit
honest.
something that you
Yeah,
can't
no,
do.
no, I'm
So you have to be able to do it, yeah.
But if the thing falls down,
I'm sure they'll want
somebody's
it,
gonna have to clean it
I'm
up.
sure they'll want it off their property and
So,
it'll work out, but we
Well,
need that
Yeah.
documented first.
We would want to see the revised plans show, although you can mention the erosion control going behind the new garage. And then you can draw in a second section and phrase it any way you want to, that this is second phase erosion control and show it wrapping around the garage in anticipation of getting the neighbor's permission. But in the meantime, yeah, before we issue a final vote, I think you need to provide all that. We want to have the plans be accurate. We want to know that you can do the project. You've got all the permissions. The health department need to be giving permission because you're doing a septic system. We would always say, we can't approve it until the health department has it. So it's just being consistent that we make sure that you can do the project and we have the accurate reflection of the plans and the order of conditions will reflect, the things that Hannah put in about erosion control, so forth. But
So may I propose this? I looked up today, we do not have a DEP file number yet.
Right.
So
We
you
also
can't close the
require-
hearing.
Right.
So can we continue this to the next hearing?
We were gonna
By
have to,
then,
yes.
right, but by then we'll have the DEP file number
Mhm.
and John will work on getting permission.
And you
And I'll
can
revise the plan to show the erosion control going on Rainey's problem.
That sounds
And I
like.
think that should satisfy everything.
I did just want to note, because when we went out there, I did have a question about, where flag 9 was and moving that a little bit and the mulching that had kind of occurred right in that little area.
Oh, yeah, right.
Rather than just restoration occurring in where the old garage is coming out, but there's also been, it looks to be recent mulching in that area.
John, we
just
have the
along
wood chips
here.
with,
Yeah.
with the back
8
on
and
it.
9.
Yeah,
He was saying like,
I just figured the mulch would look good there, I mean, I would, I didn't know.
but if we pull that out, like just to where like that
Yeah.
little pull out
I
is.
got no problem doing
Yeah,
it.
anything near wetlands, we don't view mulching as a good thing.
And-
Other parts of people's yards and houses, yeah, but.
Yeah, but it's not treated mulch. It's,
It doesn't matter. We require, we usually require, like, if there's grass clippings that people have been dumping into near wetland area, which people often do in their backyards.
Yeah.
It's just the woods
Yeah.
back there. And we often have to require as part of a project that they might be doing elsewhere in the yard, even get that stuff out. We give them some badges to post in the
yeah, I have
future.
no problem taking
Okay.
that out.
I also just wanted to note that the gravel that is there now does appear to be a lot more extensive than what was there previously. I don't know if you guys want to make a site visit in between now and the next meeting, just to see that, but looking from the Google Street View, it looked like a lot of that understory was lawn, and now a significant amount of that is kind of thick packed sandy gravel.
Oh, it's not grass like Google image.
No, so if you look at my site photos that I took, it wasn't a great photo because I guess I didn't get that right angle, but the last photo, you can kind of see the extent of the sand. And that's kind of what that entire front portion is now compared to previously, it was very grassy in that understory.
Yeah,
Yes, you do. Are you doing work there? Are you laying?
No, I'm not doing anything. That's been like that for 30, I put the fence up for my dogs.
So the sand and the mulch in this last picture that we're seeing there, the sand has been there.
Has
like-
been there forever. I mean, when
And the mulch that's in the
the
foreground.
mulch is new, yeah, I put that there, yep.
Can you scroll down another picture?
Is that would be the
That's
last
the,
one?
so that's the
That's
last
the
one,
mulch.
but
Oh,
so this is the mulch,
what is this?
that's the mulching
I don't know what.
in that corner. I was just showing kind of
Okay.
the depth of the mulch to the surface.
All right, scroll up just a little bit in the picture, other pictures. So this is the garage coming down.
Yes, sir, yeah.
This was grass not too long ago, and this is all,
That wasn't grass.
That's the one.
Was never grass. Wasn't grass 50 years.
The area to the left of the stone wall that's mulched now. it's-
Yeah.
What, mulch the whole
And
time
that's the area we're talking about taking the mulch out.
and putting lawn in? I think I saw, because I
I
did
think
see
they were saying restoration.
restore disturbed area outside of 25 foot. You were talking about restoring disturbed area and make it, reverting it back to lawn. That's one of those areas?
Yes,
Is that-
well,
is what
That's what, oh, yeah, I'll take the mulch out of there.
I don't know if
It's
it'll be
all
lawn,
dirt.
but
It
we'll
was no-
take the mulch out and maybe do some planting in there.
Yeah, working that close to a stream here, you're gonna need to define what you want to do. That is a stream, right?
No,
No.
This is drainage, what is the area?
That's
That's the
What else
drain.
is it?
There's
That's
the-
the way.
The wetlands on the other side of the stone wall.
Right, well, that's what I mean, no, to the right of the stone wall that's shown there, that dark area, that is the wetlands flow down towards, the street?
Yes.
Okay. But that's still on your property,
Yes,
he probably goes out beyond that.
yeah, yeah.
Right, so the area to the left of the stone wall you're proposing is one of the disturbed areas that you mentioned in the narrative that you wanted to revert back to.
Correct.
Lawn.
Correct.
sir, what is over here?
That's
So that's.
Gravel
that's
area.
This area, so the.
The side of the
garage
house.
is over there.
That's that.
That's where
See
I
the
parked the
mulch?
trailer.
See the bark mulch?
Okay,
And then, yeah.
so that is very different than this picture in 23.
That's a way over here though.
The one with the trailer in it, the picture of the trailer.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
the
so-
Google Street View of it.
This is all grass.
There was a big tree that fell down too, and hit my neighbor's house.
Well, like I said, I think, you know,
That picture right there.
going
Yeah,
forward with
there's a
the
lot of
plans,
brush in there,
on
the road.
Dan, going forward with the plans, we're gonna need a we're gonna need to see the restoration plan.
Okay,
So when you update
Or-
with barriers and so forth,
You know,
okay,
include that narrative.
Right, and
okay.
what's gonna be planted, you know, how far back we're gonna pull it, you know, bark mulch and whatever, and kind of give us a little space between developed property and the edge of the wet.
Gotcha.
We need to keep a
Yep.
little bit of a space in there.
Okay,
And no work proceeds until we're finished.
Yeah, until there's an order. Yeah, of course.
Can't do nothing now, it's winter.
I'll get this wrapped up before then, that's for sure. So do you think you'll have all that information ready by the 22nd? And do we have space on the 22nd?
I mean, it is gonna be fairly busy, but there is room.
We want to take a site walk between now and the second, in case we schedule something. Okay, so, yeah, we're just hearing the consensus. We'd like to see it. Can we decide whether this, any Saturday, for example, will work for people? Yes, we have 2 weeks basically to work with before they come back to us, and we'd like to potentially, if they have all the information provided, wrap this up.
That should be fine Saturday morning.
Anybody can't make a Saturday morning? You know for sure? Because we're going to wait for somebody. But this Saturday,
can't.
you will be away. You've already told us that. Thank you for telling us again.
That could be this Saturday?
If I'm just throwing that out there. This Saturday or next
I cannot
Saturday?
make this Saturday.
Who approved that? Okay.
I cannot make this
Go to
Saturday.
next Saturday.
Is next, the 18th work better for people?
I
as
can
well
make
as
it
this?
Sunday.
Take a rest. Seriously. All right, so why don't we say 18th at, is 8:30 good time for people, or is that too late, too early? Okay. Pam,
Stuff on
are you
Saturday
available
morning.
on the 18th at 8:30 to take a look at this site if you're interested?
I should be available, yeah.
And you'll be healthy by then for sure.
I hope so.
Okay, yeah, whatever. Okay, thank you. All right, so why don't we tentatively schedule a sidewalk? You'll be there?
Yeah.
Okay,
When?
8:30 on the 18th, Saturday, the 18th. We do sidewalks in the
Week from
morning.
this Saturday, yeah.
Week from Saturday. It can be brief, just
Yeah.
fun. Anything fine?
No, I think it's pretty
Pretty
self, I think
straightforward.
it's pretty straightforward.
If you have by then, that's pushing it. Well, not really too much, because you'd have plans to us before. If you have a set of plan barriers and so forth on there, as well as anything as the vice chair mentioned about where approximately how much you want to pull things back. Anything we can look at to walk around saves us flagging it. It's a small site. I don't think we need a lot of flags or anything like that, but just something to go by, say, okay, here's here. Yeah, that'd be helpful to have that. If you can provide, if you're not gonna be there, feel free to,
No, I should be able
give it
to.
just to give it to John. Okay, all right, so we'll say 8:30 on the 18th. This is at 398, for just pulling
15 Cranberry Meadow.
sorry,
Road.
one item off on there. Thank you. 15 Cranberry. Okay, and now we still need to make a motion to continue to the 22nd.
We'll move to.
Okay.
Seconded.
We'll do it, James. I heard it in my radio passing. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Pam?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
Mike, aye. Ariane?
Hi.
James?
Aye.
Unanimous vote. All right, gentlemen, you're all set.
Thank you.
Get
See
your
you then.
marching orders. You'll see you on the 18th. Thank you. And then the 22nd, you're scheduled for 7 p.m.
Okay.
Ish. Just look at the, you'll see about how far down.
I'll pack a lunch.
Sorry, we hope we move things along, but we do the deal. Thank you.
Mike, I'll be right back.
Okay. I will read this. I'll think it's. I'll say, the next item on the agenda is a notice of intent for Silver Lake Dam. Improvements to the Silver Lake Dam. All right. Dam. The damn shame is taking this long. What did you say when he hit the concrete wall? Damn.
I have to recuse myself.
What's that?
I have to recuse myself.
Why am I, wait till I read the whole thing first? Good.
I have to recuse myself due to working for a fire corporation.
Okay, thank you for disclosing that information. You can participate in discussion, you just can't vote. So you don't.
Why do you have to recuse yourself?
She works for FAR, who issued the report. So, that's right.
The applicant's representative.
The applicant's representative, she's also works by. That's fine.
Can't she ask questions, just not
She
vote?
can, that's exactly right. I said she doesn't even know what to see. She's disclosed it. She's not voting, so.
Are they qualified? Just kidding.
All right, so improvements to the Silver Lake Dam, alteration of bank, BBW, land under water bodies and waterways, bordering land subject to flooding, riverfront and 100-foot buffer zone to BBW. You're not contesting that this is riverfront, are you? We've been through that twice. Okay, Town of Bellingham is the applicant and Gregory Lacroix from our corporation is the representative. Knowing that James is not here, but has heard, I'm sure looked in the portal and read most of this information, we can start, and then if he has questions or wants to back up a little bit, we'll honor that, but just to keep things moving along a little bit, and I want to start a presentation of whatever.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Mark Kluski. I'm a senior project engineer from Park Corporation. With me is Greg LaCroix, environmental scientist. Obviously here to present the notice of intent and the proposed construction for Silver Lake Dam improvements. Just overall, the Silver Lake Dam improvements are proposed to include primarily a seepage relief system or tow drain on the downstream slope of the dam as close to the existing downstream slope toe. Some minor improvements, including some selective tree clearing and animal burrow filling, as well as some small cement concrete spalls and erosion repair for the spillway that was repaired or installed back in 2000. As we are here representing the town of Bellingham and obviously the town of Bellingham DPW, the Silver Lake is considered a recreational asset and is obviously is a valuable asset and is recognized by the DPW as well as the town. I'm just going to go through the plans real quick, very briefly here if we can. So obviously we have a cover page. If we could just go to the next page. Typical general construction notes on the following page. Here in this sheet, sheet 3, we have the existing conditions, which consists of basically a 250 foot to 300 foot long earthen embankment dam. Improvements were made back in 2000 and consisted of improving the dam, a new spillway, riprap on the upstream slope, clearing of trees back at the time, and then other improvements. Additional improvements have included a seepage control with sheet piling for one section, a very short section of the dam. This is shown in the existing conditions. Next sheet, please. Here we are showing the access route and erosion controls, proposed erosion controls. Next sheet, please. Here on this sheet, we are looking at the proposed seepage relief system on the downstream toe. The seepage relief system will consist of a 6-inch perforated pipe located approximately 2 to 3 feet below grade on the downstream slope at the toe of the dam.
Is there an issue that's required, or is that normal?
It is. So the overall purpose of the project, the reason we're doing this is for the dam to have longevity as well as conform with the Office of Dam Safety Regulations and their chapter 253 requirements.
So to bring the dam into compliance.
Correct. And from our most recent inspection of July 6, 2022, again, that was another item noticed that there is seepage with oxidation staining occurring down the downstream slope within the area. And basically what the oxidation is indicating is that soil is interacting with the seepage water going through the earthen embankment, interacting with iron particles and then reacting and then coming up as a precipitate as iron oxide or rusty appearance.
Iron in the ground in Bellingham?
I think so.
I'm shocked.
So that's the reason why for the seepage relief is to capture water that obviously infiltrates through the earthen embankment dam. However, if the seepage continues to go uncontrolled, which a seepage relief system will control it, it carries out soil particles and eventually basically get into an internal erosion situation in piping. And worst case scenario would be a failure, internal failure, working its way out.
Can that seepage freeze and you get frost issues in that earth?
I don't know about below the ground. It depends on the temperature and obviously, but once it gets to the surface, obviously, depending on how
And
deep the
deteriorate
frost
the
depth
earth
gets,
in there.
yes, correct. The problem with that though is when you have the freezing within the soil and the
It
embankment,
expands.
correct, it expands and creates,
More spalling.
correct. So that's the primary purpose of the project is to install the seepage relief system Other improvements are the tree clearing, the cement concrete spall repairs, and selective clearing as well on the upstream slope, removing root balls to get this dam back into conformance with dam safety regulations. Next sheet, please. This is a cross section of the dam. To the left side is the downstream slope, and the yellow hatching is showing the proposed tow drain at one station farther to the north and west. The lower area is showing where we are having most of our environmental resource impacts near the existing masonry wall, and then the downstream tow seepage relief system will be installed. There will be some backfill and then a rock-filled wall to support that, and that was proposed to minimize the backfilling into the resource area. So we pulled this in as close to the dam and away from the resource areas as we could, but also need to have the tow drain seepage relief system installed at an appropriate location that functions as it's intended.
And stabilizing with the rocks as opposed to a
Correct.
longer graded slope
Correct.
to the grass and then
Exactly.
impact there. Gotcha.
Correct.
You note there's an existing sheep pond
Yes,
in the middle of that?
yes. Next sheet, please. And here are this sheet is showing the environmental resource impact areas, and there's a table up on top, and then I will let Greg discuss that, but I want to go on to the next sheet, please, as well. This is a zoom in of the proposed wetland replication for the area of that we will do the restoration and replication due to the fact that we're impacting environmental resources. Next sheet. And then we have the typical construction details and erosion control measures, the proposed tow drain system and cross section. And that's basically our project in a nutshell, and I'll let Greg discuss or present anything on the notice of intent and the resource area impacts. Thank you.
Just one question, so this is basically like a French drain in front of it?
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah, my name is Greg LaCroix, also from Park Corporation. I'm the wetland scientist on the job. Just to summarize natural resources on the site, we have Silver Lake. The main outlet through the spillway is the Peters River. Down gradient of the dam embankment, we have bordering vegetated wetlands, and an intermittent stream that starts at a blanket drain, kind of to the northwest of the project area. Last resource, so we also have riverfront area coming off of the Peters River, and then the last resource area we have is also bordering land subject to flooding. Impacts include impacts to bank, bordering vegetated wetland, bordering land subject to flooding, and land underwater. The impacts to bank are mostly temporary and have to do with vegetation removal along the upstream embankment of Silver Lake. We have some saplings and shrubs growing in between the riprap in that area. So what we're gonna have to do is kind of remove the stones around each sapling and root ball, remove the root ball, and then we'll just place everything to the existing grade that it is now.
Machine work, handwork,
What's that?
handwork, machine work?
That will probably be handwork, but that's up to the contractor, so we're gonna bid the project for the town. But likely it'll be handwork and shovels on the upstream face, because riprap is really difficult.
I was gonna say, have machine work on it right next to the water.
Yeah, plus getting in there is.
Correct.
Even with the easement that they have to the top there, yeah, rolling around the top of riprap, and we don't want to hear about a machine tipping into Silver Lake, somebody is swimming in an oil slick, you know.
No.
something like that. Okay,
We want them specifically to do by hand, we can just condition. that.
Yeah.
Other bank impacts are along the Peters River where the tow drain will outlet into the river. So the pipe will be installed into the bank of the river and it'll just outlet right at that bank into the river itself. When we're doing that, we will have to remove two larger stone slabs that kind of serve as like a makeshift pedestrian bridge right now. Those will be removed. the tow drain will be installed, and those will be replaced as is right now. Upgrading of those stone slabs, we're gonna be doing some, concrete repairs along the spillway. Those will be above the water right now. But what we'll have to do for that, just to ensure dry conditions, is we will put a temporary control of water, more or less stop logs at because the dam spillway is split into 3 different,
Right, just on the other
sections.
side and then the terrace, like whatever they call that.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll just
You
cut
can-
off water.
You
to
can
that-
regulate the flow.
Exactly.
Correct.
So we'll cut off water to that right side, section while we do that concrete, repair. Getting down to the down gradient side of the dam, dam itself, we have vegetation removal. And that's where most of our temporary impacts to border vegetative wetland come from. As part of the dam, regulations that Mark referenced before, you're not supposed to have mature vegetation, woody vegetation growing within, I think it's 25
20
feet.
20 feet at least.
20
That's
feet.
the recommended distance, is to basically have a clear cut from the toe out.
For soil stability.
Correct. And preventing the root growth intrusion towards the dam.
So that's a majority of the temporary impacts to BVW. We do have permanent impacts to BVW where we're proposing that rock wall or that short retaining wall that we kind of showed before, boulder retaining wall. That will be installed for the purposes of the tow drain. That will impact 129 feet permanently. So we are proposing a replication area on the site. It's kind of a unique replication area because we did our best to keep it within the maintenance easement. So right now you kind of have a peninsula of upland that enters into the BVW. We're gonna kind of create like a bridge of wetland between 2 different wetland areas, if you can imagine it. And if you zoom in,
The
it'll
2
be.
purple areas are being joined by the
that's the
green.
next-
Yeah, exactly.
Correct.
Exactly. So the upland does extend south of that replication area, but because we're trying to stay within the existing maintenance easement, we're gonna just kind of connect the 2 BBW areas on either side. As part of that replication, we're proposing 18 shrub plantings. We don't want to do saplings just because part of what we're doing here is trying to remove mature trees. So we don't want to replace them necessarily.
But just to the south of that area is mature trees, correct?
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Right? Are you removing trees from that replication area?
Yes.
How many?
I don't think there is any trees right now within the proposed
Says-
application
says
area.
cut
It's
and remove
basically,
trees.
it's a curve in the dam, if you will, or a horizontal curve, and there's it's high and dry, if you will. Good grassy material
So we,
on the downstream slope.
to be clear, we are removing trees as part of the project. I think we had 17 in here. In that area specifically, I think we are avoiding. And that was part of choosing that area as well, was choosing an area that doesn't have significant mature growth right now. I thought we included a picture, but let me just double check. Either way, yeah, there's not significant tree growth there. I don't wanna keep,
That's fine.
yeah.
Okay, I just caution, we usually don't. I know you do explain why you're going in that area, and that's good. That seems to me like a good match in fitting into existing connecting resource areas, one to another with the, just happens to work out to 2-to-1 ratio and
Yeah.
fit in there nice, and that's fine. And taking a few trees out where in this particular case, impinging on the long-term stability of the dam is probably equally important to having several trees taken out with a restoration area included in there. The commission have some questions? Any questions? I have a couple, but I want to hold them. for-
In your photographs, you highlight holes near the wall in a couple places. Is that water undermining the?
Yes, so I think you're talking about the area right against the spillway where there's some erosion that's occurring.
That may be animal burrows or, basically sometimes when the contractors are doing construction at the original, repair, they're not able to backfill and compact adequately when they're doing the work, depending on the situation. I wasn't there. Correct, it settles out. I do not think it is, eroded material being pulled and, or else there would be,
You don't think it's
up
being,
well.
you don't think it's being pulled up
No, I
from
do
below?
not. Because we have the sheet piling adjacent to that. However, we do want to fill that in, and there are, I believe, over on Ed Falconstrom's property, there are some holes behind the masonry wall as well. It just develops over time. If you're using cobbles or you're building your wall when you're building them, people tend to pack soil down next to it, cover it, call it a day, but not realizing over time that it's gonna migrate out between the gaps of the cobbles, and that's where your soil loss comes from. But the contractors are to fill in animal burrows as well as holes that are detected and called out on the plan set.
Prairie dogs.
Correct.
Yeah, because we're page 17.
Groundhogs.
Well, that staining's pretty significant.
The one you're reviewing now, it might be this one or maybe the one you were just scrolling through before. So on your report, on page 17, where it describes in the section work and resource area, I think there's a table there.
Yes, 17 of the narrative or?
It's, I'm just having Hannah scroll through one of them. I just made notes, page 17. I don't remember which of the two documents that's found there. No, this is the one. Scroll down just a little further down. I think this is right to get to the back up a little bit more on top of the page. A little more. Yeah, right there. All right, so total, this is on the, what's this, no NOI, okay? So just doing a little math there, the square foot of temporary disturbance, if you add up all the temporary disturbance above that, it comes out to about 4,000 square feet. You have that 13,000, which is almost more than the entire area being worked on, which is 14,000 square feet. So I think you just need to double check the math on that.
Sorry about that, yeah.
No problem. The other one was accurate, 13 and 25. Just caught my eye. It wasn't like I read all.
Oh, it was
129
9,000,
pages.
there's 9,000, then there's 2,400, then there's 1,100.
That, I think I included that buffer zone.
Oh, you did? Okay, I was only
However,
adding up the
I
ones
did
directly above that. in
look at the
section 4.
table on the plan set, and they are in conformance with each other. I think there just might be some enumeration error or.
Well, I was just looking at section 4, and since there was a total in section 4, I just added up what was above that. I didn't go to any other section. I didn't try to figure out where another 9,000 something square feet might have come from, but I just thought if that section needs to reflect just section 4, you should change that to 4,000 and change or whatever.
Okay.
But if you have it, figure some other way. I didn't think you were off elsewhere on the plan and stuff, and it wasn't like I read all 129 pages. That was something to come on. Okay, so we get temporary versus permanent. And one other point, this was on your December 23rd letter to me and board. In the fourth paragraph, it says Silver Lake Dam is located center of Silver Lake, blah, 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 blah. How, it says the dam is located entirely on private property at 80 Cross Street, gives a lot number, and 10 Dupree Road. However, it is owned and operated by the town and Department of Public Works respectively. And this section caught my eye. A permanent maintenance easement covers most of the work area on the private parcels. However, a small encroachment outside of the easement is required to complete downstream work at 80 Cross Street. Have you received that?
Yes, so
Okay.
on the signature page, we have Ed Falkenstrom's signature as property owner. So that's that private property owner where the work extends onto his.
So the outside of the easement, so
Correct.
within the easement, you've got to write the easement, obviously, you can do what you need to, but since that pointed out that was outside, I just want to make sure we're covered there, so we don't have to.
But we coordinated with Ed, he knows all about the project.
I'm sure he's happy to see, you know, anything to a store in the area, keeps it upstream from him, holds many thousands of gallons of water, not flowing down. Okay, other questions from the commission members?
Just a couple of points. First off, the lake and surrounding property is actually owned by the commission.
Okay.
But the dam itself is
The
not.
dam itself is owned by the
Yeah,
town.
that's right.
The Silver Lake is actually owned by commission.
Mhm.
Also, we have a wetland file number. We have a BWP number reference. Yeah,
Yeah, that's just, I gave it a number
oh, okay,
through our numbering process,
Okay.
through our files.
okay, because they don't have to file under the bylaw.
Okay,
Town projects don't have to file.
I thought they just didn't need a fee, right?
No, they don't have to file and
No?
they are exempt, the town's exempt.
Yeah, but every project that they've been doing in the town, they've come to us and talked about, it. I think they don't need our permission.
They don't need a they don't need a permit under the.
Generally, in particularly, I believe that they have to file, they're just held to the state standards instead of the town standards.
Yeah, I don't believe they have to file under the town bylaw.
We should just, hey, Rob,
We still have to file. them.
Yes.
Mr. Planning Board
We
would
have to
know.
review them under the state.
Can you repeat the
bylaw.
question?
The state, no,
Or it's not the
they
state.
have to file under the state. They do not have to file under the town.
DPW projects in the town, there was a vote in town years ago about changing the DPW requirements, which prior to this time, at that time, town meeting, were that they had to file any work they were doing within regulatory areas with the Concom and get approvals. Subsequently, it changed, and as Neil was saying, they don't have to come to us and file an application because they're exempted if they're a town project. But I'm not sure it's a carte blanche. I thought there was, not that we had to approve it, or
It was just riverfront.
So from the planning board's perspective, if it's a town project, they still, well, like, for example, the DPW building, that had to go through the site plan review process.
No, this has nothing to do.
This
This,
was Concom.
this was a town meeting vote to exempt the town from having to file under the local bylaw.
for the conservation.
And that would make sense. I know that that's not,
They still have to file under the state, of course.
yeah, and there
But
are
we still have to review
exemptions.
them According to the states.
We have to issue a state permit. Which
Yeah,
involves all the normal review process, which we're doing here. I'm just commenting that it looks like they have a town filing number that they don't need.
I don't see that in the exemption. I'm on the bylaw now. I don't see.
Oh, it wasn't written in the bylaw, vote at the town meeting.
Basically to overcome the town requirements.
It went like this, here's the bylaw. Like that.
And the town voted.
So
I am not familiar with that vote,
Yeah,
but
we can research that with the town,
Yeah.
the town clerk and so forth. Just to be clear, we probably ought to make that little project some, when you're back.
town
We
meeting,
came up with a different.
town meeting, their infinite wisdom decided that they did not want to be subject, the town
But since
subject to the
but since then,
to the
Don
town
Martino
bylaw.
has been coming years since.
They always come to us and we always work together, but I'm just saying formally,
Yeah, okay. all right.
we don't issue a permit under the local. That's all.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify that
Right.
for this and
I
for
found
the
it.
upcoming
Yeah.
I found it.
filing as well.
Yeah. Things on that technically are state.
Intent is a town property section.
We have two.
Shall not apply to projects located on property owned by or proposed by the town of Bellingham or the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Messing them.
There's a town property section of our normal code of bylaws, and there's a wetland protection for subsection of that town property section, which says that.
Town section one was.
And the state was exempt anyway.
Okay,
State doesn't have to play by local bylaws.
so in this, not technically notice of intent, just new hearing. Because they don't technically have to get a notice of intent. Vote by us.
Oh, they
Sorry,
have-
we
they
still-
have to get a-
for the state they do, sorry, not.
And we don't have a state number, correct?
So you're saying,
Right, yeah.
you were just saying that.
we still need an order of conditions.
Right. So we'll be waiting to hear with bated breath that you got that from DEP and they got their act together. And then, when would you'd obviously want to do this, you said Labor Day, Memorial Day gap period of time when it's normal drawdown.
We were hoping to bid it in February, and then have the contractor start within 7 days, 7 to 21 days. However, the most important component is having the tow drain seepage relief system installed by the April raising of the reservoir. The other work, obviously, with your conditions of approval, could occur after that. And obviously, it depends on the weather conditions. Hopefully, we don't have a sudden change in weather where it's becomes rainy and the contractor has.
Given the climate change.
I know,
So-
so,
We are,
but we're, go ahead.
we're subject to Army Corps too, so the tree removal has to happen before summer bat season. Which starts in April, so we will have to do the tree removal before then as well.
Okay. We
Summer
would,
bat season.
Yeah,
Probably long year.
Is there any risk of you having to lower the level more than the 1 foot?
I don't think so, and that's why
Unless it gets
we
flooded.
did the completion of the seepage relief analysis. However, during the construction, in our bid specs, which are being finalized for contractor bidding, is that they will have well points next to or within the excavation. So they'll excavate down to the proper subgrade, make sure that there's no upwelling water, and then have seepage relief or temporary pumps there to evacuate any groundwater or seepage. However, in the scenario that we're expecting with the lower head, it shouldn't be necessary. However, they will have to have the equipment available to deal with that.
Yeah, what would the methodology be for dewatering?
Pumps,
Pumps, filter bags, or
Correct.
settling tanks?
filter bags.
We would approve this all as one project. We wouldn't give you permission to do this toe slope thing, I think.
No, this is all one.
Correct, absolutely. So, yeah, so we're looking for a complete package.
Right.
I'm just saying that.
If in the next
we're
2 weeks you
looking-
get the DEP number and you get it for us, and we don't have any other additional questions and so forth, then we can approve it at the next meeting potentially, and you
That'd
can
be great.
stay on your timetable. I can't crack the whip on DEP, and I wouldn't promise for anything for that. I don't know if they're running ahead, behind, or whether they'll give you any indication of that. If you have a contact there.
You might reach out to them before.
I imagine they're gonna have an extensive review of this being a dam and a river and all that, that they'll really give it a good.
Is this their first go around
Go.
in getting this information too, or have they seen this before from you guys? Any prelim?
No, we submitted with them when we submitted with you folks, so.
Okay.
Yes, as you said, probably want to reach out.
Can't imagine they may have a few comments, but given the nature of the work.
Since they are the ones that are gonna be doing any regulatory changes, and we didn't see anything. I don't think anybody in the commission here saw anything glaring enough to jump out and say, hey, you better check this out before you even go to DEP. Levels of. Line. Throw it back to the commissions, any questions, comments, observations for the record?
Interesting project.
It's long overdue in some ways.
It is.
And hopefully the maintenance going forward will be to keep the trees and stuff from growing up out of the river. I don't know. how-
We could just take it out and restore the river to its natural state.
You know, I was gonna mention that. Do you ever remember-
Yeah,
Then we lose that. The silver stream with a really big beach.
We did include the order, the operations and maintenance manual from 2000 with this, so the goal is to keep that going. from here.
Yeah, hopefully the town, which will probably be responsible to maintain DPW, will stay on top of that there. Okay, so I guess we'll hope to have you communicate with Hannah. She will be away for some of this time, between now and the next meeting, but we'll be back in time for the next meeting. So, between the 10th and the 20th, if you try to reach her, you won't be able to, or.
Yes.
Monday, that
back on the
Monday.
25th.
So, yeah, definitely, if you get something between now and then, hold on to it. Shoot her an email, let her she'll catch up on it. Yeah. Reach out to her on the 20th to let her know we got that. So the plan is to just continue to get to continue the 22nd. If they have a DPW number, then I mean, like DEP number, then that's all they need to get. And we don't have any additional comments at this point in time. I don't think. Pam, do you have any comments, questions?
No, I think everything I was thinking got addressed.
All right, and then we can put anything in for the DPW and approve it on the second potentially if it's ready to go, and we're not really writing in order of conditions because the DPW will determine if there are any, but if there are major out.
We're writing the OC.
Right, but it's. They'll just. Or the stuff, they don't have to. Regulatory bottles.
No,
No what?
you just have to compare it to the state. You can't say like, oh, we don't.
We're just reviewing it under the WPA.
It's the same thing.
It's just the WPA.
Except we
Just
can't.
reviewing under the WPA.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll accept the motion to continue this to the 22nd at 7 p.m.
So move.
Second. Don, all right, any other comments? No. Pam?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Steve? Neil?
Aye.
Me, aye. Arian's recused, and we used herself, as she has said, and James. Thank you.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys. Thank you very much. Take care. Hopefully see you on the 22nd.
Have a nice
Good
day.
night.
You as well.
All right, I forgot to ask if Brian was coming back on, but.
No, they're continuing.
They are,
They
okay.
requested a
Oh, yeah. I
continuation.
forgot.
I didn't, I thought to myself, he would say, I'll see you later, and he was gonna come back to. Okay, so. Next item, very quickly, this will be super quick, on the agenda is the hearing for the ANRAD at 180 Street, Rentham Road, Bound Road, 585 Rentham Road. Confirming and demarcated boundaries of bordering vegetated wetlands, DPW isolated, bank to intermittent streams, and bank mean annual high water mark, NAHW, and to Bungie Brook. NECC Holdings, the applicant and Brian Madden was going to be the LEC consultant representative. However, they've requested continuation to a particular date or just continue to the next meeting.
So the 22nd on here. Just the
I know,
22nd.
they were on the back of this, and I should have. I thought the only change was that. Okay, thank you. So continue to the 22nd at 7 p.m. This is part of that very full agenda already, or was it not counted?
Yeah, this is part of it.
Okay. So we're not adding one, piling one more on. We already know this was probably gonna.
It's already been piled.
Pile on. All right. So accept the motion to do this, continue this to. Yeah, second.
Seconded.
Oh, we'll let Pam have this. Second, you've tired out. Thank you. All right,
Relaxed.
any discussion, all in favor, James?
Aye.
Marianne?
Crazy.
Yeah, aye. Neil?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Pam?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. Now, so, okay, continue to the last item, gentlemen, we'd like to hear for that, or maybe you're under other business.
8 Beach Street.
Just hang one more. We have one more. 126 Hartford Avenue.
Keith is on.
Lincoln is on for the, Chappelle Engineering Associates, DPW is also the applicant. This is for Route 126 Hartford Avenue, continued hearing, notice of intent. Improvements along Hartford Ave within the 100-foot buffer zone. In the portal, we received several chunks of information, or we have had. It's even on the portal. So the latest one was December. I can't remember the date on it.
January 3rd.
January 3rd, sorry, yeah. December. Okay, so we have BSC's comments. We have some response from, Keith, did you respond on those comments or was it somebody else from your group?
That was a, a group effort,
Okay,
but
group
I
effort, okay.
represent those responses.
Okay, and so this is my part. This was all related to the engineering and the storm scepter and the site of impact, the impact of the storm scepter device and the outflow at the edge of the resource area. Again, we did not get a response yet from BSC of any sort, did we, Hannah, about a request to have the environmental impacts assessed?
I think they were going to, they were supposed to have Dominic from.
Yeah, he's
Dominic.
Oh.
Yeah, well, Dominic, I'm sorry, you were crouched down. I didn't see you behind this laptop here. Oh, somebody know I'm talking behind it.
That's the town.
That's the town, yeah.
Make sure that they don't.
So I think it would just be, helpful to have him involved in the discussion. but-
Absolutely, no, absolutely, Dominic, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right.
I've seen you here once or twice in the.
I
years.
generally don't come because it's very difficult to get here, but I was in Worcester today, where it's actually easy to come.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for coming. Okay, so, one of the questions I had from the last couple times this has been on was the impact environmentally, which I know you deal with the engineering side of things for PSC, so you may not be able to answer this, but maybe any of them. So we'll address the engineering side, environmental impacts of the engineering side, from of course PSC first, and comments back and forth. Does anybody in the commission have that? Questions or anything unclear? Is about 86 or 68 square feet that are impacted by the actual device. In
And that
area.
was, a little debatable there. The applicant is saying because of the squarish, the 64 square, I think it was 64 square area where the storm scepter is getting installed is the only permanent impact. There's also, I would say there's an area that within the tree line that a pipe is being installed.
That wasn't there before. This wasn't.
This is new infrastructure, the pipe.
being installed the pipe outlet. I mean, I would say that the area that ultimately would be cleared for that installation would be your permanent impact. It's, I mean, we're talking about degrees of difference here. It's, you know, maybe 120 square feet instead of 60 square feet. It's not a function of, you know, are they allowed to do that or not? It's more of a, you know, for the record, what is the permanent impact and what area would ultimately, you know, long term, that area is gonna stay clear because they're gonna need to be able to access that.
That pipe is for outflow, overflow, if the volume of water coming down the street that's being drained through the storm scepter exceeds the capacity of it, is that?
No, so the storm scepter, what water's gonna come through there, you know, basically on every storm event.
So it's gonna go out through that pipe?
Yeah, so they, right now, there's one existing outflow to that wetland. That's taking area from, I mean, I don't know if we have a plan up, but I believe it's sort of north end. If I have my bearings right, it's planned right. The flow that comes down that way to an existing outfall, what they're doing is sort of cutting off a piece of the flow that goes to that outfall. Flow will still go to that outfall, running it through that storm scepter, where it'll actually get treatment, where right now, basically none of that gets any treatment, and then outfall into the same wetland at a slightly different point.
Okay.
Does this go into the pine forest? One, yeah.
Yeah, well, the resource area referring to is the
Right.
White Barren Park. An untreated pipe that went to that same area is now being treated. For the
Well, a
storm
portion
scepter.
of it's being treated. There's still a portion, they're cutting the flow off. There's still a portion of it, again, I believe, south.
A little bit less
It's so it'd
probably
be-
contribution.
Yeah, so
to that
that
untreated
existing
portion.
outfall will get a less.
Less contribution of
flow.
untreated. Is there any opportunity to treatment on that?
I mean, they could, I mean, physically, yes, they could. I mean, it's ultimately, up to the applicant and the commission, if the commission would like to,
Keith,
drive
could you,
that issue,
do
but
you
physically,
feel
yeah.
qualified to speak to that? Whether the state in this case would be willing to fund another storm scepter type device to treat the rest of the pipe that is not currently treated in the proposed plan?
Something that I would have to go back to the town to,
Town
to,
slash state? Who's
yeah.
funding that? The state?
It's a state.
this is, yeah, this project,
The state's
Is-
funding what?
it's a combination of funding. Currently there's a Mass Works grant, there's a contribution from Mass DOT. And there is additional funding that's being sought through other grants and other mechanisms. But the town is going to be administering the contract for all of the work, whether it be on state highway or on the town's layout. So what we've really tried to do is to incorporate some measure of water quality improvement with this project. And this in and of itself is an extension of the project, because the work limits, the roadway work limits and further north of where we are putting in this storm scepter. And so it's really extending the project limits much further south. And not that it couldn't be done, but it's just, it's kind of a case of, you know, whether or not they can take on that additional scope as part of the project.
Let me ask this hypothetical, Keith. If we didn't approve, or the town didn't want to go along with, because it may not be the state / DPW project, again, how much outside the DEP regulations we would need to or be concerned about. But if it didn't get permission for whatever reason, DEP said, no, don't put a storm scepter in there. Where is all this water gonna go to? We just go down the existing pipe that's down there and maybe undersized for this additional widening of road, more impervious water coming down? Or would it find nowhere, someplace else to put it?
It would go to the larger pipe down further south of where we're proposing the storm scepter that cuts off that trunk line. So it would basically continue to function as it does with additional water.
Untreated.
Right, but they wouldn't have to make the pipe bigger, is what I'm saying, because there was an agreement at a previous meeting that there is more impervious area. They're widening the road, they're putting in that 8-foot.
Right.
Well, on the upper part of Hart Drive, I don't know if it comes around the corner there down by Larry's, but that 8-foot walkway / pedestrian biking path. So if they're widening that road and increasing the flow, what is the amount? I know you say it's somewhat of an improvement, taking some of the water away by putting through the new storm scepter that's proposed. Is it like 80-20 reduction in what percentage roughly is still going to go down an untreated pipe? Of the total volume that's going down that pipe now, how much is storm scepter taking off and how much is percentage wise? Do you have a sense of that? Do you have numbers that you guys have crunched?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but we have the ability to generate that kind of information. My guess would be it's about, just looking at the areas, it's probably about 70-30, 80-20, something like that in terms of treated versus untreated. Like right now, nothing's being treated after this work takes place. It would be probably about 70 to 80%. The portion of water that's falling on the roadway south of the last set of catch basins that feed the storm scepter to that pipe, which is it's essentially kind of a low point that captures water from both directions.
Yeah.
That's just a guess. I really would.
Okay, that's fine. Just getting a sense of the scope. If it was 20% was being treated and 80% still going down the pipe, then I'd say we're not doing ourselves much, of a favor. Certainly better to hear 70 or 80% potentially is being treated. But again, the level of treatment, and this goes back to a little bit of my original point about having asked for several meetings. I think some of the commission members, myself included, were more concerned about the environmental impact of taking stuff that even goes through a storm scepter and gets some sediment out and so forth, does nothing for oils, well, sorry, maybe do a little bit for oils, but does nothing for salt or other chemical treatments that will be taking place in heavy dosages on that road. And we would be, I think, remiss in not trying to find out what potential information we can get about the environmental potential impacts, knowing what kind of stuff's being put on the road. It's not like, well, if you treat it with anything can happen. These are the things the state would use, or the DPW rather would use to treat that section of road. These are the things the storm scepter does not take out of the system, which include salts and so forth. This is what's going to be going down through the pipe and going into a resource area that is a rare area in the state. And what could the environmental impacts be over a period of time? What kind of information is out there from an environmental point? And I know, Dominic, that's not your purview per se, but it is something we've asked BSC several times, and we haven't heard back from Amanda.
I think when I spoke to Amanda about it, we kind of talked about the impact of the stormwater treatment being the environmental impact of the project. Like using the treatment standards to measure how, like, if you meet the standard for that, like.
Yeah, I mean, if I can maybe take a shot at it. So, from the Wetlands Protection Act standpoint, the pollutant of concern, so to speak, is TSS, which of course DEP doesn't really define exactly what TSS is, but it's total suspended solids, which is really what things like storm scepter, they do actually have, they do capture oils and greases and fluids. They trap them to a point, but it is really what they focus on is the removal of that TSS. Like a real salt that's soluble in stormwater. I mean, anything short of, I don't know, like a filter isn't really getting things.
Yeah,
like
I wasn't saying
right?
that the device that you guys are reviewing wasn't acceptable or good for what it was scoped to do.
Yeah.
But we know that it won't treat certain things which do have a negative impact, I'm assuming potentially over a period of time, real negative impact in large quantities going into a resource area. And I'm not saying there's any way to treat it. There may be no way to get liquid salt out of, before it flows out into this area, but what do we
again, the regs that we need to base our decision on don't have any guidance on any levels for anything other than TSS.
Right, so I was asking our consultant, not so much for regulatory backup as far as what could be done or not done, but more of can you provide a scope of impact that might be, or a range of impacts that might be expected from environmental experts' opinions or research that's been done in other areas for an impact to a resource area like this over a period of time. It's more informational
Yeah,
than
and it's a
regulatory.
little more, it's a little more maybe, qualitative than quantitative, I guess, too,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, fundamentally, you know, there is a discharge to this wetland already from the roadways. So from that aspect, the things that aren't treated or removed aren't really changing much. And that the applicant sort of
Doesn't mean
described
it's
this,
a
but
good
this-
idea.
No, it doesn't mean, but it's a little bit of, it's there. So the environmental impacts are already happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, if this project wasn't brought to us, there'd be no nexus for us to review this issue.
Correct. Now that we've been, like a lot of things around town, including some other things on the southern.
And the storm scepter is definitely an improvement.
Oh, I'm not saying, it's good to know that I was trying to go to our experts, meaning ESC, on an environmental question that I understand would not be affecting necessarily a decision regulatory wise at all. But to say, oh, we've done some stuff up there, or no, even just among commission members, maybe the general public in Bellingham doesn't know or care. But that is if it was going to other areas in town, other resource areas perhaps even in town, and not one of a kind, but one of a very rare kind in the state that we happen to have in our town, I might be a little less concerned about it because not that any wetlands can deal with this, but that there'd be able to handle it. I just would like to have known if that was possible. What I'm a little disappointed was that I wasn't getting a clear sense that either you guys could or couldn't, not you, I'm not shooting the messenger, that you guys couldn't provide information. I just want to know if there's no background information in the environmental resources that are out there available, that you guys maybe have much more resources available than we would, then so be it. You know, nobody knows, nobody's ever done a study on soil impacts in barren wetlands or barren white pine forest or something similar type of resource areas. But I just was asking the question, and so we'll just go back off of that for now and move this along to any other questions about the BSC comments and back and forth, storm scepter and environmental engineering.
So one of the questions we had was really sort of the last sort of open-ended question, which is it's comment 8, which is for standard 2, which is your peak flow rate standard. It appears, and obviously the applicant can correct me if I'm wrong, where they really calculated the peak flow rate discharges was not this outfall. At the outfalls that are going really to, they have a proposed basin over by 495 and that area. So based on the numbers we have, I can't tell you if there is an increased peak flow to this particular outfall. You know, any idea would honestly be guessing based on eyeballing, you know, areas and
Is that where you
impervious.
said there's also usually the town goes on 1, 2, 5, 10?
And yeah, and so there's the Wetlands Protection Act standard, which is you calculate the 210, and really technically it's the impacts of the 100, but generally you tend to get the 100. The town requires 210.25 and 100, and the town also requires that you use you know,
Cornell.
right, it's the Cornell or something similar, which would be like a NOAA 14. And I don't know, I mean, they may have used that. It wasn't clear from their calcs what they were using as a rainfall.
Or bylaw requires.
That's your bylaw. Yeah, it's yours.
This is a town project.
But again, it's the state of DPW. So while we have to make sure that the DEP regulations, and then maybe that's what you're actually.
Well, yeah, I mean, the DEP is, you said 210 and 100.
210 and 100.
Keith, what were?
Not 25. 25 is just the town.
Yes, Keith, what were the years that you guys figured on in your report?
We originally did the 210 and 100 per the DEP regs. And then when we got Dominic's comments, we did a supplemental run with the 25-year storm event as well, to provide that comparative. And we used the data we used was the NOAA rainfall data generated through from the HydroCAD software for the Bellingham, like going specifically to the Bellingham database.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, the NOAA 14 data, which is actually generally a little bit bigger than the Cornell numbers. Generally, a little bit. But it's, yeah, it's an equivalent, and that's actually. If they ever actually issue the new state regs, they'll actually go to a version of that. Yeah.
Number 9 on, I think your most recent, peer review. You know, no information was provided regarding the groundwater recharge. But then the information they provided again looks like it was for the infiltration basin.
Yeah, so that was the recharge, which is a little different because the recharge is, they did the recharge for the totality of the project. Well, the infiltration is happening at the basin and not at this location. It is for the total project. That's how they calculated, which works out. It's really just they have multiple outfalls. The bigger ones and the ones that are sort of maybe newer are the ones that go to the new basin. Wasn't what we're looking at, and that's what they calculated for standard 2. And so I honestly just can't tell you if they may very well made standard 2 for that other outfall. We just don't have the information.
And you're still anticipating getting that? Because that was one you did comment to close.
I mean, I don't know.
Well, no, that was when you didn't, that your response was typical, and we know more.
Yeah, because I can't, because I mean, that is,
Keith, is that
it's
something?
still an open comment.
Is
from
that
the
something that you planned on responding to, the question 9? I think
it's 8.
8,
Yeah.
question 8.
Yeah, so what we did that in that packet that we put together last Friday, that included the data that would respond to that comment or inquiry. In looking at it, I think we could do a better job of making it a little bit more user friendly, because you have to do a lot of digging through the tables to find the exact location of the outfalls, because we did all of the individual outfalls with this. And so I think we're really focused, or should be focused, on the one going to the area in question. And so what I was planning on doing is giving you a more concise summary of the pre and post at that specific location for 2, 10, 25, and 100. But I can tell you that in all cases, we are exceeding the post exceeds the pre. And that's what you would expect, given the fact that we are increasing the impervious area draining to that location with this project. And we have no way, there's no practical way that we can really mitigate or attenuate the flow in that, with that volume of water coming down North Main Street. So again, what we tried to do is, we can't really attenuate, but we do have at least the ability to try and improve the water quality that is draining by installing the storm scepter. And that's really what's put us in front of the commission. Without doing that, we wouldn't necessarily need to file, because all of the roadway work would be outside of the jurisdictional limits. So that's what's really trying to give you some of the backstory. We're trying to do what we can within the very limited footprint we have to work with. And
Performance standards for TSS.
Yeah, well, because it is development, it's maximum extent practical and an improvement over existing conditions, which this is definitely improvement over existing conditions.
Even though we're getting an increased volume of water, the water that comes out the back end should be cleaner than the water that we're getting now.
Yes.
Is that an improvement? Yes. Is that kind of what they're trying to get at here? Yeah.
But it could still be improved more.
I think it.
Yeah, the response to Keith was the town and the state have to agree to extend that, and if you were talking about putting another storm.
Such as what?
Well, we can ask Keith to go to.
Like we can
Keith,
take over the project a little bit and making decisions on the project. When
Keith, I'm sorry. You what?
I'm here to direct the project.
No, but I do have a question. The decision to treat a percentage and not 100% came from where?
Well, it really came from the intent to treat the water that is falling on the road, the portion of the roadway we are working on. The portion beyond that we're talking about is in no way being impacted by the project. Like, we're not doing any work within any of the areas south of that last set of catch basins that are just south of the work limits. So what it is we've got new roadway construction, and we're picking up all the water that's falling on that new roadway and draining to the storm scepter with that. So it's really kind of intended to address the water that we are impacting with the project, if that makes sense.
So you're treating, in essence, if I were to paraphrase, you're treating 100% of the water of the impacted roadway,
Of the new roadway.
of the new roadway.
Right. And
Not
and
the
the
old road.
well,
Some of
the
the
old
old
road within the roadway project limits, but the portion of the road south of the roadway project is existing road that we're not impacting, we're not working on.
The pipe that is added, that was beyond the 86 square feet of impact that goes, how far into how long a pipe is that?
Not very long. I mean.
Coming out of the storm scepter, so
Yeah,
it's a new
it's,
pipe.
it's a handful of feet.
Oh, so it's not, I heard 100 something feet.
Oh, no.
Okay,
I mean.
because I was gonna say, why would they
I think
get
that's
something out further into the wetland?
Yes, that was that was square footage. That was
Square
talking about
footage,
the,
okay.
the actual pipe length.
Is there currently some sort of riprap or something at the outflow?
Well, so this is a new pipe and they
Right.
are proposing to
Okay.
put riprap
So I was gonna
at
say,
the
it's
outfall of
it's
that
gonna
pipe.
come out of that, in the 100-year storm, in the 25-year storm, the water's gonna be coming out of that pipe like a fire
Yeah.
hose.
Yeah, and they're proposing pipe for stone ends, which is a standard mass dot. It's actually a pretty big riprap. Pipe for stone ends, it's based on weight, if you do the math.
And is that part of the permanent alterations as well?
So that was one of our comments, which is sort of we ultimately the discussion of what is a permanent alteration is kind of up to you guys. I mean, in my opinion, yes. I mean,
Riprap's
you're putting
riprap's a
stone on the
permanent
ground.
alteration.
That area that area that you're clearing, or that, well, you're like there, they would be clearing to install some pipe, the storm scepter and the riprap. To me, is a permanent alteration.
Absolutely. There's not riprap there now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, right now that piece of it is little clearing than that area to put this infrastructure in, which includes the riprap. So to me, that's why I said it. Rather than maybe 64 square feet, I don't know, eyeballing it, it's maybe twice that. But.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, so this being one that you do have a DEP number for and have for a while, right, the 105, the DEP number? Yeah, okay. Knowing that we have, are you expecting comments back? Are we expecting?
And I think
are you
you
expecting
said
comments
they
back?
submitted something on Friday.
They did. It was just that one comment
Yeah.
about relating to that number 8.
Yeah.
That he was kind of explaining here.
Okay, so that was the only DEP response? Yeah. And we don't anticipate getting more of those likely. This is just the first round that we're gonna, okay. So, knowing that it's a project, knowing that we don't actually have to give approval for this for Bellingham bylaws, but just the DEP portion, which only had the one comment, which is why I was
The
asking.
WPA.
Yeah, WPA/DEP issued, but WPA enforced, yes. I'll accept the motion to. Unless some commission members have anything else they want to bring up, to accept the, close the hearing and issue an order of conditions for the one Hartford Avenue, consistent with the WPA comments, incorporating comment number 8. Yes, was what it was, right?
Yes.
Captured, oh, okay, all right. So moved by Ariane,
Seconded.
second by Don. Any other questions, comments?
So we want to move forward without addressing the possibility of adding another storm scepter, or would that be a different type of filing probably?
That sounds like expanding the large.
Well, it's already been stated by Keith, he'd have to, that's considered to be substantial extension beyond what this extension was, although. I was just gonna ask, hypothetically, that one pipe that comes into the storm scepter has a Y or something above it. Just up street from it, which allows the old pipe that goes down the street and has been for years. To continue to flow past it. Why did they not just propose capturing all of it and put a bigger storm scepter in? If you're capturing roughly 80% through the storm scepter that's being proposed, why not just up it 20% in capacity and put one in that captures everything that had been going down untreated and have 100% wind? You don't have to go down the street further, you can just do it right at that point, I would assume.
Well, so no, if I understand you correctly, it's the water continues to go further south. So if we can't take water coming into it from both directions because it's not a low point. I'm not sure if I'm understanding you.
It's not the low
If
point.
that,
Yeah.
No, where the storm scepter location is capturing everything going north from there.
Yep.
To the corner and around, all the new improved roadway. But what I was told was there's been a pipe going down right along there that you're basically capping off portion of it. And allowing the rest, the 20% or so, to continue to flow down that existing pipe. And putting 80% into, am I not capturing that right?
No, I mean, what they're doing is there's a pipe that currently comes from the north flow. I think north is planned.
Yeah.
yes, yep,
From the
yep.
north flows to the south to that existing outlet. They're installing a manhole on that existing pipe and cutting the pipe, so the rest of that pipe will not continue to flow south. There are catch basins that are further south that go that way, and
That's the 20% that.
and that's what he's talking about, that area that is beyond that
Right,
limit of
and that's
work.
fine with me.
But that already flows south, so the only way they would either have to put the storm scepter down where the existing outfall is, or. You know.
Put in a pump?
Redirect those, well, you can redirect the flow, I mean, if depths and everything worked, they could pitch it back the other way.
Well, I wasn't proposing that much, I just misunderstood, when Keith gave me the percentages 80-20, I assumed that was all
Yeah.
coming from the north. And not
No,
capturing the
so
20%
yeah, that
goes
existing
to the
outfall
south.
that's there,
Some of it's coming
I
from
think
the
some of it
south.
actually even comes from further south than that.
Yes, yeah.
Like,
Okay, thanks, that clarified that for me. All right, so where were we with this?
We have a motion and a second.
A motion, a second, any other discussion? All right, hearing and seeing none, Pamela,
Hi.
Ariane,
Hi.
James.
Hi.
Neil.
Nay.
Don.
Aye.
My God.
I was with you on that.
Okay, so 6-1, and it passes. Thank you. Thank you, Keith.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. All right, gentlemen, come forward, please. Thank you for your patience. You're here for 8 Beach Street, correct?
Yes, sir.
Information. Oh, this is. Summarizing, this is other business while I take the lead, and then gentlemen, you can provide background information and support if you need it. Yeah, that's.
I have a full-size plan if anyone wants to look at that.
Good with pictures from it, Christmas, I'm gonna go put, I can pass it over this way just in case anyone else wants to see it. Thank you. Okay,
I love pictures.
you wanna give a quick recap?
Yeah, so, they requested a COC, last week. And, about 2 weeks ago now, I'm not sure of the exact timeline. And I went out to do a site inspection, and it appeared to me that the slope of the fill was a lot closer to the edge of the wetland than it was on the, plan set. And there was also, some lack of extra erosion controls in there that I was a little bit worried about. And vegetation hadn't fully established along that steepest part of the slope. There were a couple of bare patches. So with that,
How long ago was the septic system, new septic?
I'm Chris Lanu. I own and operate EDC Septic. I'm the one that installed this. The engineer should be answering these questions. He's not here. So the previous owner of this property hired the engineer because the system failed. So George bought the property, so
What year was that? Just
we started that June 2nd.
of this year?
Yes. Last year.
24.
24, June 2nd, I started it. I pulled my machine out of there July 2nd. So that plan was approved by the town of Bellingham, went to the Conservation Commission, was approved. We called for inspection. You weren't working in the town at that time. Dylan was out from the town as the inspector for the town for the septic system. Dylan coordinated, had conservation come out. I believe at the time, I can't say it is, but I think it was the building inspector that came out. He came out, approved. We had permission from Dylan to keep going on the system. We started working the system. We came up with issues. We found an old drain pipe going right through the middle of the proposed system, which was something that was dated back. Nobody even had records of it.
Prior to 1900.
Prior to 1900. So we ended up getting, what's that? It was
Street drain?
It was a street drain, but there was no drainage. It was actually a 12-inch clay pipe, chock full. There was no drainage in it whatsoever. And we tried to do everything to figure it out. We couldn't go on other people's property. We would have to dig up another 1,000 feet of property in order to figure out where it went to. Town DPW and the Board of Health all figured that was not working. Plug it at both ends. That's what we did. So that project took a little bit longer. So then we had all our inspections by Dylan and the engineer that designed the plan. So everything was done. That plan is installed exactly to the T within 1/10 of an inch. The back of the system we had, that is exactly on the plan, exactly to what it was. The as-built of the engineer coming out doing that is spot on. We can't shave it down anymore because we will not meet our breakout coverage. So you will have septic coming out of the ground if that's tapered, if that's cut back. In the plan, doesn't have any retaining wall. There is a 40 mil poly underneath there as well. But everything was inspected and approved. So the engineer that did this, the COC took for a while. He's not from around here. We had a hard time getting in touch with him. So the final as-built package was brought in, and then George put the house up for sale. Now it went up for sale. He's got a closing, and then we have these issues that came up arising. And I'm trying to figure out why, because this was all done through the town, all in the up and up.
We have a certificate of compliance.
And I have a signed certificate of compliance, and it's Dylan's responsibility to make sure everything was signed off before that COC is issued. So that's why we're trying to figure out, because we've done everything on our end to the T. Now, I installed in Bellingham hundreds of systems, and I've gone through conservation over the past years, and I've never once have had an issue. So I know George personally, so he asked me if I could tag along and at least give some insight on this. The system that was there previously was a cesspool that was leaking into the stream.
Yeah, that whole street is.
Yeah.
Probably
So
almost every house. in that
What
street.
we've done over there in the elevations and the drainage on that system, it is not gonna make that stream, and if it does, it's gonna be a purified liquid. So, but everything is done exactly to the plan that the town and the Board of Health and Conservation originally approved. And we installed exactly to that plan, because when the as-built comes out and does our final component inspection, they also do a topography of that to make sure we have minimal coverage over that system, and we just met the minimal coverage over that system.
And the retaining wall, we didn't use the small bricks. There are slabs the size of this table. It's overbuilt. Built like a tank.
For the signed certificate of compliance you have,
Yes.
not ours. Okay.
I wasn't aware because I didn't have it from the initial purchase.
And then when we spoke to Dylan won't usually sign a COC unless he knows the conservation, because he's in the same building as you guys. So he's aware and he communicates.
Usually our first question to an applicant who comes to us for a COC is, do you have the Board of Health signed off?
I was kind of blindsided.
Exactly. So
This
that's
was supposed to close on
Really?
Monday.
Because like, I feel like we get people who are like, oh, I'm requesting a certificate of compliance for this work we did in 2007. And like,
No, I mean, we just got it done in September.
To make sure we're compliance with the Board of Health. So we always ask the Board of Health sign
I
off.
thought we just made sure that they approved the plan.
Yeah, this is from September 24.
Well, we want to have the same thing.
The
Yeah.
certificate of compliance is issued after. So people don't usually come in to a certificate of compliance until after the work is done, and then.
We should say you have Board of Health approval, everybody else has signed off, you know, one, just like. I've been in a number of meetings where Board of Health question, and it's usually a quick yes, we got Board of Health signature. It's just sort of like with The planning board.
Right, well, regardless, did we compare the as-built with this is the as-built, so these are the current this is the current topo and the current measurements
That's the problem that,
to
you
the
know, I
original?
was confused by, and I did talk to Dylan from Board of Health, and he was concerned about, you know, I don't think we can shave anything off of this slope because it's such a
Exactly.
compacted system. I'm just confused as to why it shows on the as-built plan that there's about 12 feet in between the toe of that slope and the edge of the wetland.
No, so what you, because we have to meet breakout. So you,
Right.
yeah, so, and there's additional loom, you know, some loom was going to scattered over the construction area there.
Right.
So it looks like that was an excavated area, but it's just a little bit of loom. So if we have to taper it out in order to meet the breakout, if we don't taper and we cut down, we're not gonna have the breakout. So we can't shed that back. And that is a question for the engineer, because they do all the calcs. And I don't certify the system. I'm just a licensed installer.
Right.
So the engineer signs off. If we don't meet that breakout, or if we encroach that wetlands to a certain point, the engineer would have picked up on that. And when that plan was submitted to the town, at the end, our as-built, that would have been caught. But here we are now, you know, months later, and this is just coming up and the system's already done. I didn't even remember half of this system. I had to go back and look at my notes, because I've done probably 38 systems between that system and now. But you can't shave it back. And the gentleman here has a closing on the house, which he's gonna lose based on this, and we've done everything we could. And as far as the vegetation, and that already settled, that already stayed in place. He's already mowed the lawn all summer long. And what you see is the little breakout that the hay wattles caught was from the massive rain we got at the end of the season, and it just ran down and the hay wattles caught it. As far as, yeah, so that's what happened. And she's already patched
Letting
in.
them know what I saw.
Yep. No, I
Anyone
agree.
out there, they're the
No,
ones
I'm,
making
so I'm very
decisions, so.
passionate about all that. I take it very personal, and we do awesome work.
Right.
So that's why I just
So
want to
there-
make sure I
so there
learned
is-
something too.
In the picture that we saw at Hannah visited the site, the drop off to the fence is fairly sharp. That you've already explained, you need to get the coverage, so the field had to be built out further than it might show on the plans here. On the plans, it does show quite a gap there. So whoever drew those as-built plans did not do an accurate reflection, whether the engineer or whoever, of what actually Hannah saw and the pictures show, because that shows the fence is there and the wetlands are right behind the fence, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's sort of like it's like an
few
old brook that was cut at both ends, so it's like a mucky kind of
Yeah.
trough.
Wetlands is wetlands, and muddy, and Beach Street area has wetlands on both sides of
And
it.
the
The houses there.
engineer,
Yeah.
the engineer is the one that drew that. We don't draw it. We're not a licensed engineer. So he drew all that up.
Yeah.
There's a couple issues with I'm doing a comparison here of the approved plan set and the as-built. And again, there's no dimensions, and I don't happen to have a scale on me. This shows the fields extending almost to the end of the wall. And the elevation at the end of the wall was designed to be 97 feet. It's now at 100 feet. So
That's
the
the
ground
thing.
elevation at the end of the wall is 3 feet higher than was approved.
No, that's it. It's,
No, that was approved. That was the approved plan that should have been built,
that, what we install is exactly to that plan. And if you go back.
not
and-
according to this.
Dylan is the final approval with, along with Steve Donatelli, who's the part-time inspector who approves plans until Dylan was able to do them. And this was all done, everything was inspected throughout the project, and they approved the final as-built.
Well, the question is what they're looking on the laptop the same as this printed plan, or are they two separate?
When you,
This
no,
is two
so,
separate plans.
when you do,
Well, what's the data on?
one's the as-built, one's the proposed plan.
This is the approved, this is the plan we approved to be built. This is what was built. They are different.
Yes,
That's why you have a proposed plan and you have an as-built.
and we never saw
But
the.
when we issue an order, that is what is to be built.
Unless it.
What
something
we
needs to change.
approve is what gets built, period.
But you guys don't approve the septic system.
No.
We approve a plan
That the
to
Board
put
of
that
Health approved
system
And we
In.
wait until septic.
that has already been approved by the Board of Health.
and was approved at the end also.
We don't care what the Board of Health approves. at the end.
Well, they're the ones that have the authority to approve the septic system, not the
Well,
conservation.
we're
Yes,
the ones that have the approval to, issue an order of conditions.
It's for the conservation portion of the property, the project, as opposed to the Board of Health and the septic. Yeah, it's, Rob, you over there
so-
waving your hand, Valerie?
Yeah, my apologies. I stepped out at the beginning of this conversation. We have two approval authorities with septic systems. You got Title V, which is Board of Health, that's the actual design. And then if you're within 100 feet of a wetland, there's the Wetlands Protection Act that you also have to abide by. That's what they're approving. So that's where if you get the approval from Conservation Commission, whatever the approved plans are, that's why they're saying, you know, if there's a specific setback from the wetlands, that's what you have to, that's what you're held to. And to your point as well, when you're talking about the COC from the Board of Health, that I completely understand the confusion that you have. It's, you get the COC from the Board of Health, that was for the Title V portion. You could also be getting a COC from Conservation Commission, which basically states that you're also meeting the intent of the Wetlands Protection Act and their approval.
I understand. I was not aware there was an order of
Yeah,
conditions.
I get
It
that.
came up on the title work from the buyer.
Yeah,
The minute I found out, I drove right down here and talked to you and. made an
Yeah,
Appointment to get out there. Unfortunately, it snowed and,
I don't-
agreed to the appointment.
I don't think there's any ill intent. I'm just, you know, as you're saying, sir, about, you know,
Yeah, so
Board of Health
the,
approves the
the
septic.
Board
Yes,
of
they
Health should not
approve.
be approving a COC without the approval of the conservation.
That is not,
It's two separate.
Yeah, well, I work, well, this is new to me then, because every town I work in, I install in 13 communities. And no Board of Health will issue us a COC unless they go to the conservation, if, then they won't sign off. So, and I've been installing in Bellingham since 2010, and this is the first I've actually ever heard of that. I've dealt with conservation in the past, and I've never, ever once had this ever come up in since.
Because
2000.
usually what we do during our approval process is ask the question, has the Board of Health signed off on something? If they haven't, we say, well, we need to get that before we can move forward any further in the process. We've done lots of septic approvals, and this is about the first time I've seen this kind of a mystery. And it may be a timing thing. There may be personnel changes, Dylan and coming in and so forth. Hannah was not on the board at that point, or on board at that point in time. We had a different administrator in place. If we had not seen a request for a certificate of completion, we wouldn't have caught this until you brought it to our attention, because you weren't aware that you needed one for conservation. So
Mr. Chair, I think we're getting off track. It has nothing to do with the Board of Health approval of anything.
well, if they didn't approve it, we
No,
wouldn't.
no, it doesn't have, I don't care what they
They're
approve.
only approving the system.
We're talking about
not the
our
grading of the
permit.
bank.
Our permit is based on
This is from
the
97
plan
foot.
that we issued, which was having it built that way, where the elevation at the end of the wall is 97 feet, and all the grading works from that. On this as-built, it's showing the elevation at the end of the wall is at 100 feet. That's a 3-foot difference, meaning that the grading, if they're maintaining the same slope, which I assume you were for the breakout and erosion, that slope is now have to going out
Which is why it's so close to the property.
further.
Yeah.
Now, but the question before us, we really have kind of two choices here. Do we have them dig it up and fix it? Or do we say that they put in a good faith effort to build the system as well as it could be, given its close proximity? And
Erosion controls in, he did put in the silt
Yeah,
fencing.
And do we? And I'm just making a hypothetical, do we make them dig it up and fix it, or do we approve it? And with the improvements that they made, and that they probably built a good system that will protect the resource area, which is our main intent anyway.
I will make a motion to approve it, and I will say, the next time something like that happens, which hopefully it doesn't, but like when you run into the pipe issue, maybe that affected this. I would say, talk to all the departments who are involved.
We did. I mean,
Listen,
self-installed.
I was living in this town hall in the DPW when I dealt with this. I was in here for a month.
But I don't think we heard.
No,
that.
because you guys didn't have to deal with the pipe. And we went, so again, I don't, unless something gets flagged at conservation, our conservation was wetland protection, and that was it. And I've never had, in all due respect, I've never had a conservation board ever question the design of that. So going back to you.
I'm not questioning. the
No,
design.
so,
No,
but
it's, it
No, I get it. I'm
wasn't,
just trying to
it
learn.
wasn't built to the design. The
believe it or not.
design said the elevation was 97
So,
feet.
and that's the designer's fault. Here's the problem. If you were at that block wall, the
But
97 feet,
You built, you had the plan.
and we built it exactly to what it saw.
No, you didn't.
At the 97 feet, we could cut it off at the wall. Guess what? You have breakout. You're gonna have sewer going right out. You have to taper it off. That won't be on his original proposed plan.
Right.
If you make a change to
That-
the design plans, you have to come back to the board.
But we didn't make a change.
Yes, you did.
You went from 97 to 100 feet to make
That's a
the cover
change.
that you needed, right?
But that was the engineer. That's not, and me as the installer, it has nothing to do with me. Because we go by the plan. So the engineer would have had to put a wall, a retaining wall there. He would have had to design that. I don't have the authority to change a plan. When the engineer comes out to do his topography and his component inspection, he's the one that would pick up and
Well,
say,
it shows that the trenches went further than they were on the original design. The trenches go almost all the way to the end of the wall, where they were supposed to be back from the end of the wall on the original plan. Regardless, that their future reference, if there's gonna be a change like that, you really need to come back and we need to look at it and see how that's gonna impact. So that would be an amendment to the order that we issued originally.
Or we determine it's so minor that it doesn't matter.
Right, or we say, no, you're good, and then we don't have this conversation at the end. We just go, you're good.
So, interesting question. Who changed the height? You or the
we didn't change
engineer?
that.
So you're claiming, and I'm not disagreeing, I'm just trying to understand the order. You're claiming that the 97-foot top elevation claims you never,
No,
were never
97 feet is the
given.
linear footage. You're talking 97 feet long off the house.
No,
correct?
no, that's the total.
The elevation.
That's the elevation at the end of the wall.
Went from 97 feet to 100 feet, so 3 extra feet of fill. which you
Inches.
needed, right?
Yes.
So you're saying you
No,
never
feet.
saw the
That's 3 feet.
97-foot plan, you only saw the hundreds.
No, that's what he said. He saw the 97-foot plan.
So here's the thing, so just to educate you guys as well, when we do a system, the engineer owns it, we don't own it at all. So the actual engineer, I came in to help him, the engineer should be here answering, because when he signs that, that's his Bible, he owns it. He should be the one answering all that. Like I said, when I say we design to their plan, so when they come out, so Dylan comes out and inspects 3 different times throughout the project. And then, as in any town, the engineer that designed it comes out and does 3 different inspections throughout the
No,
project as
sorry, I
well.
understand.
So, and he's the one that measures it all out, and if there was an issue, the engineer was the one that we would make
You
the
didn't
changes.
know you were going 3 feet above
What the original plan was.
the original elevation was.
Somebody went from 97 to 100 feet.
I'm
You
a
guys
little
built
confused. I
that.
don't speak this language
No,
fluently.
so-
97 feet
Elevation from
from sea level.
From sea
From
level,
sea level.
right?
Yeah.
Not
The
from
reason,
grade.
and the only thing I can think of, and the engineer can only explain this, is groundwater. So that system was raised up a little bit higher because of that, and Dylan is, during when we go through this, we call Dylan, and Dylan is the one that, in any town that we work in, unless it's, different here, we never communicate with the conservation. It's always the Board of Health agent, and if there's any change, the Board of Health agent comes back and lets the conservation know. That's been in any town I've ever done. Maybe it's been courtesy because of our reputation, that the Board of Health agent would talk to the conservation and be like, hey, we're making changes on this. But I've never had one question. That's why I'm just kind of
If
guessing.
you've never had a septic system built within a area that we regulate, or where it's impacted, like this one is right near a wetland, but if all the other septic systems you've done in Bellingham, you've only dealt with the Board of Health agent, it's because you either didn't know and didn't come to us or whatever, and you were near some of theirs, or you were just in areas that were outside of 100-foot jurisdictions. And if that's possible,
So that should
then
be for
you wouldn't have had to come to us. Board of Health, regulates. But in this particular site, we should have been, as part of the regular routine in Bellingham,
Was it depth to groundwater?
approached as well as it's simultaneously with Board of Health. So you come to conservation, say, we're near wetlands, we need to get this plan before you, go to Board of Health design. But anyway, that's moving forward from here. The board has before it, as Neil has proposed, as stated, 2 options.
Who's the
Did
engineer?
Ariane not make a?
I think she was going,
Yeah, I made a motion. to
no, she,
approve it, or issue.
were you making a motion, or were you just saying that that's how you felt? Okay, make a motion.
Approve work and issue and order conditions, or sorry, certificate of compliance, and yeah.
I didn't understand a single word of that.
I make a motion
To
to
approve.
approve the work and issue a certificate of compliance.
I'll second that.
Given that it's under other business and not as a formal hearing motion, do we have an issue with that?
Well, we have to sign
We
it,
have,
so.
we have to issue the COC, we have to vote to issue that.
Yeah, right, we have to vote to issue it. I'm just saying it's not, right, so it's, like numbers posted and stuff like that. What we need to do. All right, so we have a motion, a second to accept the, to issue a certificate of completion for 8 Beach Street. Any other comments?
Just one, Hannah, you picked up on the discrepancy, correct? Well done. You did your job. Thank you. Keep doing it.
Cause odds enough for everybody in the room, but that's okay. We need to
Very
vote this.
thorough.
Okay,
I
James,
I would like to add a special condition that those bare patches be reseeded.
Already have been. Hannah already put out with Dylan and saw that I seeded and hayed them and put up a cell
Allowing
fence.
them to use.
I swept my brother's barn to get
That's what
hay.
they suggested.
Hay,
that
hay
you
spreads
did,
invasive
so.
species usually, so. it's,
In that neighborhood?
Yeah,
It's-
no, it's just.
It's probably already been invaded.
Just a general, but.
Yeah, I think the invasion has been completed in that part of the world.
all right, any other comments that are relevant in this particular case, people? No, okay. Call for a vote. James,
Aye.
Marianne,
Aye.
Pamela,
Hi.
Neil,
Aye.
Don.
Aye.
Steve.
All right.
Like I. Yeah, so, okay, gentlemen, we're good.
Thank you
Looks
very
like we're
much.
not getting
See
divorced.
Hannah about.
Oh, is that all it took? Oh, can we do that again?
I might want to go the other way.
Yeah.
I know. Knowing your timing, be very close contact with Hannah, she's gone after Friday.
Okay, is this thing supposed to
2
close
weeks.
on?
I heard you, so I said, Hannah,
I'll sleep here tonight if I have to. I'll sleep in the bed of my truck outside.
One departing question clarification, Neil.
If,
If they, now despite the fact there's a test pit that should have shown the groundwater, let's say his assumption has merit and that a higher groundwater was discovered and the engineer instructed him to raise the whole thing, he should have come back to us, correct?
Correct.
You're absolutely right. And just out of experience, I've been doing this for a long time. I will tell you honestly, in all the towns that I've worked in, we make on-site changes and it never comes back to conservation in any town. The engineer owns it and he stays within the guidelines. So if we got a waiver and we're 2 foot offset the groundwater for a specific system, he would be, okay, I can do that. If it's 4 feet, well, we gotta have a 4 foot separation, he'll do that and make sure, and he'll show that on his as-built plan. But we've never gone back to conservation, one, because of how much longer it's gonna take. You have an open pit, you have an open yard, and now we're waiting for another, it could be a month for a meeting.
No, I
So it never
understand.
gets done, so that's why it's in, I'm just letting you know, all the towns I've worked in, it's always on site. And we called, usually the town inspector who does the septic, I know Steve Donatelli was here for a little while filling in when they lost the last inspector. And he's the authority and he's made the changes on the groundwater and stuff within the rule of reason. We can't encroach it. We can't take a 3 foot and go, we're gonna make it 2 feet and we're all set. We can go greater.
To make that comment.
Yes, so we have to make sure, they make sure it's within that, and then on the as-built plan, it would show that. That's why you get a discrepancy of the proposed plan in the as-built. And then sometimes also, like on this one here, we came up with a massive old, it looked like a vault. You could walk into it, that they were using as an original leach pit, back when that system was installed. This thing was like 36 inches thick. We had to take the excavator and kept dropping it on the ground to break it into pieces to get it hauled out. It was the size of this entire desk. You could walk inside of this thing. It was so huge. We hit that. I'm like, are you kidding me? Never would have thought it was on that property.
Trash is buying it. Okay, so.
Oh,
Go ahead,
sorry,
no,
so
you're
for the COC, I don't have one prepared right now. I can get that written up tomorrow, but unfortunately, since Hannah Crawford isn't at this meeting, I can't have you guys do the electronic signature vote until I get the vote that we do tonight to the Registry of Deeds.
Is it just filing it with them, or do you have to wait for some sort of confirmation back from them?
We just have to, well, when Hannah
Do you
did
wanna
it,
Print a blank copy of the back signature page while we're in the office and we can all sign it
sure,
while we're here.
yeah, we could do that.
I was curious about that. Do we have to vote again?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately,
That's on the agenda, so.
Yeah, okay,
If we
so,
can- If we can.
so gentlemen, be in touch with
You're
Hannah.
good.
She hopefully will have something for you before she leaves on Friday.
So give you a call tomorrow, 10-ish.
sure. Yep.
Okay.
Good, she's not gonna go and ram his head into a wall.
Good luck.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Good luck. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Thanks for
you.
your patience.
No worries. Thank you very much for hearing us. Good night.
Right, okay. So we're gonna be signing doing a signature page. Rob, you're not offering to go downstairs and copy that for Hannah right now, are you, please? Thank you.
Do you have it?
Oh, no, I
Oh,
just need a, well, I need a
just print
blank,
off.
I just need a blank sheet. Not with this file number, but they have to sign this one for this other.
I'll be right back.
Thank you, Rob.
Sorry.
I'll think that's good. Okay, 31 Pothier Street. Other business.
Yep, so, that's another COC, he's, you know, he didn't need to come, there weren't any real issues with this one. It was done a while.
That was quick.
It was
Yeah, back
done
keys.
a while ago, I just uploaded the order of conditions recording information, because I had forgotten to do that.
When was this from originally?
Yeah, I couldn't find.
Sorry, what was this from?
No, 1978. When was this done?
This was done in, I believe, like 2016. Oh, shoot, that's not the right.
2022, we reported in 2022.
Yeah, there's a
Oh,
receipt.
recorded in 2022, yep.
Okay, so it's
Um,
relatively recent.
And the original, they originally had Anne go out and do a site inspection. And then they didn't approve the order of conditions because the site wasn't stabilized. And then they requested us to give a, certificate of compliance in like March of last year. But then I think with Hannah being gone, it just got kind of pushed under the rug and nobody ever came out. So the area looks to be stabilized now, and that was really the only outstanding portion that Anne had approved before. Other than within that, order of conditions, they do have an ongoing operations and maintenance plan. So that'll be an ongoing condition in the certificate of compliance is to continue with that.
How many of us on the current commission can sign that COC?
Yeah, because James and I were out there.
No, everybody.
Can we? There's
Oh, yeah, you didn't have to be,
I thought there were written names on.
Yeah.
you don't have to be on the original order to approve of the CSC.
So we will,
Well, but people come back, I mean,
you want to do electric?
people come back years,
Okay.
yeah. These things can,
Okay.
some of
You
these
just
get,
sidewalk,
some
you
of these
verified
get
those-
really
you
old.
verified it was stabilized,
Yeah,
that's fine.
and that was the only problem.
So
Yeah.
we'll get electronic signature, we'll forgot to sign it when you get it, but we
Oh,
need to
this
go
one's,
to it.
this one's.
Oh, you did?
This
Sorry,
one
we
was
will
all-
look for
there
that
was
to be
no
passed around the table.
problem.
But we do need a vote to close, to issue order certificate of compliance for 31 Pothier Street. I'll accept the
So
motion.
moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Oh, any discussion? No, okay, done.
Aye.
Steve, aye.
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
I,
James, Mike, aye. Pamela?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Pam, you won't be able to sign this one. That's okay. We got enough people on. We're at the table, so don't worry about catching up on Pothier Street signature. We did 180 Payne Street right off, so all we have left are minutes and the electronic signatures vote, which she needs to get before, and 79 Plymouth Road. Oh, that's,
That got crossed off.
is that, our one
Yes.
area? We
Yeah,
got
so we'll
postponed
have to
because
schedule that site.
Sharon was sick, so we didn't go out to site, but we're, Hannah and I and the arborist will take a look at that. If anybody else wants to tag along, let me know and I'll let you know when we reschedule us.
yeah, maybe let's push the minutes until the next meeting.
Yeah, that's my vote.
Because we have to do a new one because
Send the meeting minutes electronic.
in the, I had to talk to the people at Norfolk County of Deeds. I guess it has to be, you can't just say like conservation agent, conservation administrator, it has to be a name or like land recording documents.
Could have just done Hannah C and it would have been fine.
Yeah, right. So unfortunately, there needs to be another vote. So it needs to, he needs. to make
Motion
a
to authorize the Bellingham Conservation Commission agent Hannah Chase to physically sign Bellingham Conservation Commission documents on behalf of individual Bellingham Conservation Commission members.
So
Second. That was a motion that somebody has to make. I will let.
So moved.
I said so.
Second. Okay,
Yes.
we had to last time.
to physically sign Bellingham Conservation Commission docs on behalf of you guys.
That's the exact same wording from the previous vote. I didn't make that.
That's for the
Yeah,
electronic?
That was all, that was all it
On
was.
behalf.
Just,
Yeah.
just sign the book.
Just say aye, so we can go home.
So, motion was made by who? I gotta write that down.
I made the
I have to bring it to like the town clerk and they have to approve it and then we go, like it just has to go in the
The
document.
one person who's not listed on here is James.
Am I not even on there?
It doesn't have to be on there.
Can we manually write it in?
Oh, yeah, you guys don't even have to sign this. This just needs to be the vote.
Yeah.
I just wrote it out so that this would be the document.
Did we vote?
Not yet.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, it's gonna roll call. James?
Aye.
Marianne?
Aye.
Mike, aye.
Aye.
Steve, aye.
Aye.
Pamela?
Aye.
You don't roll call for that.
Just be consistent. Let's just read them on.
Obviously.
Minutes, somebody is after, we just wait till the next meeting. to do it.
Yep.
Just the time. Skip it, they're pretty current. Thank you for.
So curious.
Boy,
I so did not want. This is,
We're live.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
We'll just do that by voice.
aye.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone. Hopefully see you next time.
Okay, hopefully, get healthy.